Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has a Dragon Ascendan bloodline. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Freedom Guard and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. In Konoha, get away from my store you brat. Geez, I just wanted to buy a shirt. The blonde child walked away in a huff and moved away from the store. As he did so, several more people glared at him and gave him unfriendly looks, and all he could do was look back and laugh as he moved away to find something else to do. However, it was not long before he was near the outside of the village gate that he found that he was being followed by a number of armed villagers. Not again. The blonde boy turned his heels and took off to avoid the following individuals armed with an array of tools who were intent on inflicting bodily harm on him. He however was running so fast that he was not watching where he was going and therefore he ran into another person. Oof. Naruto fell to the ground and he looked up and saw someone standing before him and was wearing robes of a very different nature. The man had deep golden eyes and golden hair with silver streaks in them. The man smiled at Naruto and spoke in a regal tone. You should watch where you are going, young man. Sorry, they're here. There he is. Demon brat. The tall man dressed in regal robes looked at the band of armed villagers with a calm eye as he stood behind the young blonde child and suddenly in the eyes of the villagers and the young boy, a massive halo of fire surrounded the man quickly and then they watched as the flame grew and took a living form almost like a serpent made of pure flames. The serpent rose and roared out at the villagers as the man spoke in a serious and regal tone of authority. If you think I will let this boy come to harm you are sadly mistaken, leave now or else. What kind of jutsu is that? He created a serpent out of flame without moving his hands. He must be a demon. The man spoke again with a calmer and more patient tone. Demon, no, I am something more than a demon. In me flows power you are not even able to understand yet in your lifetimes. I do not plan to fight you as you are not my sworn enemies, nor are you and your weapons are of any threat to me even in this form, but I have stated that you will not harm this boy. While I am around now, be gone. The villagers began to back away and soon took off to a run, and blonde boy looked at his savior with shocked and amazed eyes. The man's face softened considerably and the serpent of flame faded from sight and the young boy looked at the man and finally spoke in a very odd tone. Who are you? Me? I am Valen and you are? My name is Naruto Uzumaki. How did you do that? You didn't use any hand seals at all. Valen looked at the young man with a curious expression and spoke in a very cultured fashion. What do you mean by hand seals, young man? A ninja is supposed to use hand seals to make a jutsu work. That's what I learned back in the academy. Is that some kind of jutsu that does not use hand seals? Hand seals, you mean mystical gestures in my tongue? No, young man, what you have witnessed is a technique that uses no hand seals, if you will. Cool. Can you teach me that technique? Valen grinned and replied. I wish I could, young Naruto, but I am afraid that now is not the best of times for such an action. Oh please. Naruto did his most cute gesture of pleading, earning a chuckle from the man in robes. However, that changed when the man became serious and stepped in front of the boy as a band of strange individuals dressed in black, wearing armor and carrying swords came on the scene. The strangely garbed people surrounded Naruto and Valen as the villagers came back. No doubt they had called these people to try and deal with Valen. Another band of the strangely garbed men came, and with them was a man who was dressed in regal robes and wore a strange hat on his head with an odd symbol. As the new person of authority appeared, several of the Anbu stood to bar the way of the villagers. Naruto quickly recognized a man before him in the regal robes. Old man. The old man was Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage of the village of Konoha and the current leader after the death of the previous leader of the village. He had been the one who cared and protected Naruto when he was young, and it was he who placed down the law concerning an ancient truth that had long been hidden from the young man in question. Hiruzen then spoke to the stranger. Who are you? I am Valen and from what I can see and sense you are the leader of this village, am I correct? Yes, my name is Hiruzen Sarutobi and I am the Hokage of Konoha. Why are you here? I came here merely to rest and move on in my journey when I saw this boy being chased by a band of the villagers and they were armed with some weapons. I naturally stepped in as I will not allow any harm to come to a child for whatever reason. I see it seems that I am in your debt. So it seems. The Hokage looked at Naruto who was looking at both him and Valen, and he looked back at the stranger. There was something odd about this person before him. There was power, great power that dwarfed his in a good number of ways, and it seemed that the power itself was controlled in a fashion that was unnerving. The elderly Hokage knew that despite his seeming calm, this stranger possessed enough power to rival most if not all ninja at the moment. He had to tread carefully here, and he knew it. I wish to talk to you, come with me to the tower. Valen considered it and nodded. Very well, I accept your invitation, but what of the boy Naruto? Naruto then spoke out as he saw that this was a chance to finally be in the tower without having to deal with the villagers, giving him trouble at the moment. I'll go with Valen, old man. Later, these are very interesting food items. I have never tasted these before. Sarutobi, what are they called? The Hokage looked at Valen as the stranger was currently eating some fish balls at the moment. Valen was amazingly cooperative with him and the Anbu that escorted him. When they had entered the village, the villagers who tried to harm Naruto stayed away from the tall stranger who apparently was more concerned with the boy's safety than his own, as he gave them a calm but very serious glare that radiated power and strength that made Sarutobi know that this stranger was more than capable in the art of war. Fish balls, they are fish meat that have been specially made into balls. I see now I must know some things about this young man that I have rescued. From what I have seen, a number of the village's residents have ill intentions towards Naruto. Why is that the case? That is a very long story, and I have made a law that forbids any mention of it. Does it have anything to do with the evil power I sensed in the boy? The Hokage looked at the stranger who was calmly eating the fish balls, but had a very serious stare, and the Hokage could tell that the man was gently asking for answers to his questions. Normally he would never speak of the past, but this man wielded a power that he had never seen before, and that was saying something for the former genius shinobi known as the Professor. It was years ago the demon beast known as the Kyuubi attacked Konoha. It was a powerful creature with a single blow of its tail. Forests were destroyed, tsunamis would occur, and mountains crushed. Many ninja of this village gave their lives to stop its rampage, and the fourth Hokage, who was my replacement after I retired years ago, gave his life to seal the demon away in a boy. That boy being Naruto, I take it. That is correct. The Yondaime hoped that Naruto would be seen as a hero before he died, the one who would bind the Kyuubi and keep the demon away from all life, but the villagers see him as a demon child. When I took up the office of Hokage once more, I made an edict to prevent anyone from ever speaking of it to others, even their children. But I fear that it will not be enough. As they look at Naruto with angry, hateful, and spiteful eyes, their children will look at him the same way. But what choice did I have? It was either that or they would harm him. It doesn't seem to work as well as you might think, however. Sarutobi nodded at that. The incident that Valen told him was but one of few open attacks on the boy by people too thick-headed with their desire to harm the child. But thankfully the Anbu he had assigned to keep watch over Naruto have done their best to keep him from harm. This day's incident was due to bad luck, and no amount of planning could change that. I know that is why I worry at times. Iruka does his best to help Naruto live a normal life, but I feel that it will be an uphill battle for Naruto to be accepted as one of the village's people and as a ninja. Boo. Iruka Yamino, he is one of the Chunin instructors in our academy, and he is the one who acts as Naruto's father figure. Naruto might prank Iruka at times like everyone else, but he is the one who helps Naruto whenever they are not in the academy grounds. He sounds like a good man. Sarutobi nodded at that. Iruka's parents were killed by the Kyuubi when it attacked, but he treats Naruto like a little brother, and Naruto sees him as a father figure. Despite their bickering, the two of them love Raymond just as much. Because he was an orphan like Naruto, Iruka used to have the same lonely life, and because he knows and understands Naruto's life, he cares for him a great deal despite the past. That is something I know greatly to be true. Valen nodded, and as soon as he was finished eating his food, he spoke to Sarutobi. You wish to know who I am, Sarutobi? I believe that was a question in your mind when you and I met, and I have no doubt that the villagers have told you of my powers. I can assure you that I am no demon, though I am not entirely human either. Sarutobi looked at Valen and was patiently waiting for answers, and he knew that several hidden Anbu were ready to respond should something go wrong here, though he doubted that they would be a match to Valen, as he could tell that whatever Valen truly was, his powers would be far beyond them and even his. I can show you just who I am, however this will be for your eyes alone. This will not hurt, but brace yourself nevertheless. Valen then placed his hand on Sarutobi's forehead, and the old man gave a slight groan, and the Anbu appeared to fight, but only a moment later, Valen moved his hand away, and Sarutobi spoke to the Anbu. I am alright. The Hokage looked at Valen and spoke in a very reverent tone. I understand what you are now, but I must ask what you plan to do now. Valen smiled and replied. I have a boy to watch over for a while. In the coming days, Valen was given permission by the Hokage to hang out with Naruto, and Valen did so with a smile. Naruto himself was happy to have a friend, and Valen was certainly a very cool guy as well as Iruka. The Chunin instructor and Naruto's father figure had to admit that while Valen was imposing, he was well cultured and mannered as well, and seemed to be very comfortable in Naruto's presence, despite the blonde's antics. He was told by the Hokage that Valen was alright, but he had heard the rumors how he could control fire and wield strange powers from the other villagers, but Iruka believed the Hokage more than idle gossip, and if the Hokage said that Valen was alright with him, then the Chunin was alright with Valen. Valen however was far from idle, as he planned on how to help Naruto, and through unknown means, had begun to make needed changes to help Naruto out, and with the Hokage's help, things were going along well enough. Valen had not revealed anything to Naruto, feeling that now was not yet the time for the young man to know everything. He would learn on his own time, and he would be the one to make the decisions for his own future. That was what being human was all about, free will. It made them both smile and mourn when those thoughts came to mind. Humanity always made mistakes, it was natural, and just as there were great heroes and noble people in their kind, there were infamous villains and corrupt people in them as well. The future of humanity always was unique, they could go one way or the other. Some were great champions of peace, justice, compassion, some could be harbingers of war, suffering, corruption, while others were stuck in between or chose to be there themselves. His race was older than any living being on this world. He was merely visiting long before man ever walked the world. His race, and many others lived before them, and when humans came, his race were intrigued by them, since while they were doomed to die easily, they were also gifted with great potential and ability. Even the most common of their race could rise to great heights. It was that reason that drove his race to grant humans a rare honor, the Blood Ascension ceremony. In time it proved to be a mixed result. Some used their powers to do great good in their worlds, while others did great evil with those powers as well. In time, the humans who were blessed with the powers of the ceremony began to squander their powers and even used them to attack the very beings who gave those powers his race. At first, their attempts were futile, but his race grew tired and eventually left the lands, leaving humanity to carve out their own future. Valen knew that and decided that while his actions were considered treasonous by the more conservative members of his race, his actions could help rectify many things. Unlike the others, he still believed that humans were worthy of power, and he felt that now was the time to reawaken the old bonds that once bonded their race with his. Yet he knew better than to charge ahead. Time and experience had taught him much, and the many millennia that had passed by since the last time his race ever spoke to humans had no doubt wiped the memory of his race from the worlds they were once part of, and the bloodlines they left behind had apparently lost a good portion of their original power, as without the presence of his race and those who underwent the ascension ceremony, portions of power in the blood were lost over time. And it seemed that this village of Konoha had a lot of that long degenerated power. For now, however, he had other ideas and plans, and those deserved his full and undivided attention. As the days turned to weeks, Valen knew that the time was right, his time in this world was coming to a close, and his time with Naruto would end, but not before he made the last phase of his plan, and with that in mind, he spoke to Sarutobi a day before he would leave. Suffice to say, the conversation was very much different, and the Hokage was not entirely agreeing with the plan, but he promised Sarutobi that he had made the plans and contingencies that were necessary for Naruto. The old Hokage couldn't help but worry, and he couldn't blame Sarutobi for that. However, the plans were already in motion, and he trusted him to see them through. Naruto was not happy. "You can't be leaving now, of all things. It's going to be my birthday today." Valen smiled a bit and replied, "I will be leaving tomorrow yet, Naruto, so for today I am here. By the way, I have something for you to try out." Naruto looked at Valen, handed him a big strange-looking cup, and it was filled with deep red liquid, and it seemed to glow somewhat as well. Something about it seemed to make him feel a bit worried, but he pushed those feelings aside and looked at Valen, who smiled a bit. Valen was among the few to come to his private birthday, as well as Iruka, Tucci and Am. The two were among the few people apart from Iruka, the Hokage, and Valen that Naruto trusted, and they were very good to him. They were the people who made his favorite food and Iruka's own as well, and they were very decent and nice people as well. Naruto then spoke to his friend. "What is this? This better not be some weird drink for a joke." Valen laughed at that and replied, "No, I'm not the kind to joke anyone on important days like this, you know, but go ahead and try it, Naruto. It won't hurt you or weten it might make you fall asleep faster though." Naruto looked at the drink and sighed and took it all in and found to be having a sharp but not a bad taste, sweet and cold, almost like a near-frozen fruit drink. As soon as that was over, the party started, and to his amazement, the Hokage himself came and greeted him a happy birthday, making Naruto all the more happy. And when the time came to finally wrap things up after the 4-hour celebration, Naruto went to sleep, and this allowed Sarutobi and Valen to talk with one another at the moment. "So it is done. I hope that you were right in this. The Kyuubi would no doubt try to defeat that power. I know that, but this demon will have a very hard time with the power. He might contain it, but he cannot kill it. It will be able to meld with Naruto soon enough. As for me, my time has come to leave. Tell Naruto that I will miss him." "I will." Valen then wasted no time and left Konoha, and he was not stopped by anyone in the village, since everyone else with the exception of the ninja on patrol were asleep. As soon as he was a fair distance from Konoha, a blue portal opened and Valen stepped through it and disappeared from Konoha and Naruto's world. In a massive chamber. "Your actions, Valen, are becoming very troubling as of late." Valen merely gave a smile and another voice came into the play. "Wipe that smile off your face, Valen. You know that you have violated our laws." Valen spoke firmly and with great authority. "Are you saying that my actions, which were independent, have no purpose? You all know that I am not ignorant of the laws. We do not question your wisdom, but we do question the why of your actions. You know that we were not to engage in the ceremony with humans ever since the exodus of our race to this dimension. We could walk and observe, but never interfere without good reason. But this use of the blood ascension ceremony is something that we cannot ignore for any reason. It was my decision to do so and I have already weighed the possible outcomes personally. Have you? Have you truly? Do you realize that such power in the hands of humans will bring untold things to world you were in? Yes, and I will not take it back. If anything goes wrong, then I will deal with this myself. The beings questioning Valen were robed and hooded, but their eyes glowed with great power as they regarded Valen, and one of them spoke as well. See that you do, Valen. You are one of the oldest of this conclave and the strongest and wisest, but your irrational actions at times have brought headaches and even disgust in the conclave. However, if you are willing to shoulder this responsibility, then so be it. As the hooded beings left, another figure appeared behind Valen, and Valen turned to face his new companion. The person appeared human but was covered in a very intricate set of tattoos that were gold on his slightly dark skin color and had a pair of wings in a bat-like form behind him, and his eyes were glowing slightly in a golden light. The human-like being had deep black hair with stakes of silver in it, as the man wore pants with armor on it, along with arm guards and boots. The new arrival then spoke to the disguised dragon who was still in his human form. "They're not happy with you again, master." Valen chuckled at that and replied. "I guess they would not be given my rather unique choice of action recently. They have good reason. In this case, you know as well I do that they have good merit. Many humans have abused the blood ascension ceremony and used the gifts bestowed upon them for their own selfish desires and their mad quests for power, knowledge and immortality. And we all know the outcome of those things, either we slay them or those who are of like powers kill them as well. True, but keep in mind, Fenrix, that there have been just as many humans who use the powers of the blood ascension ceremony for the right reasons and have been paragons of light, truth, justice, compassion and peace as well. And it is they who slay those who commit evil and destruction, and so do those born of such unions, as you well know." The winged and tattooed man dragon nodded at that. "I do not question that, master, but there are few of them left in the worlds where we once resided in. There are too few humans like them in this day and age now." True, but that is not an excuse to give up faith and hope for humans. I for one, sensed a great destiny before this young child. He can be the savior of his world, or its destroyer. The day I met him and sensed his potential and his life, I feel in my old bones that he will be the greatest one of his world, and I pray that he will take the path of being its savior and not its destroyer. You doubt me, Fenrix? I do not, master. I simply wish to know more of this human that you bestowed the blood ascension ceremony to and your blood. He must be truly someone special for you to donate your sanctified and unlocked blood to. His name is Naruto Uzumaki, and the past few days I spent with him are enough for me to deem him utterly worthy of the blood ascension ceremony. He carries a burden with him that will shape him for the rest of his life, and I believe that my blood that now flows in his veins will be the key for him to truly be stronger than anyone. I see. Tell me about him." Valen sat down, and so did his half-dragon student, and the two discussed the life of Naruto, and as time passed, Fenrix looked at his dragon master with some surprise. "You bestowed him your ceremonially consecrated blood, even if such a being is inside him. That was a great risk you took, master. There is a chance that demon might have sealed the blood when you accomplished the ceremony and allowed Naruto to drink it. I had thought of that, however that demon will have a hard time containing that power, as it will filter through slowly. You know my lineage after all. I guess that since you have committed this action, then nothing can reverse it. But you know that it is law that should one undergo the blood ascension ceremony, then another must serve as his or her guide, or that person will not be able to truly utilize and control the powers then flow now in their veins, and this Naruto will be no different. Despite your lineage, he will need a guide, master." Valen nodded and replied. "That he does, young Fenrix, and you shall be his guide. I charge you with his education and his training in the ways of the Dragon Ascendants." "Me? Yes, you are a Dragon Ascendant yourself. After all, you know its power and the responsibilities entailed with it, and there is no one else more qualified in my mind than you, my young student." "I'm not exactly young anymore, master. Truly, at least by human standards. Of course time moves much slower for you and I, and we are older than any living mortal. However, my decision has not changed." "Will you do this for me?" "If that is your wish, I shall do as you ask. I just hope that this Naruto that you speak so highly of is truly worth your praise and the blood ascension ceremony that you performed. He is, more than even I can imagine. Take good care of him and teach him well. He can be a true hero with the proper guidance." But that discussion over, Valen watched as Fenrix made his way to the portal that led to Naruto's world. Back in Konoha, Naruto continued with his life in the village and hoped that his guardian would come back soon, despite his word that they might not meet again. It was saddening to the young man that his foreign friend was no longer about, but he was happy to have met him, and he smiled as he headed on back to the academy, unaware that he was now assigned a guardian and teacher for the rest of his life as he was being watched. Fenrix watched Naruto from a very fair distance using his dragon vision. This allowed him to observe Naruto without being seen by others. He did this as he felt that it was time to observe just what was it about the boy that sparked his master's interest. "Open your eyes, Naruto." Naruto opened his eyes and was surprised to see that Iruka's forehead protector was gone, and it was then that Iruka told him the words he had longed to hear ever since he had been in the academy. You've graduated Naruto, you are a genin now. Iruka-sensei. So the boy knows his burden now, but was not driven to anger by it, and he has managed to fight the one who is like family to him. Good. Fenric said as he observed Naruto and Iruka from afar. He had been concerned when the traitor Mizuki had made his moves on Naruto, but he was impressed as his future student had not given himself over to hatred and rage, and hearing that Iruka cared for him for real despite the past and considered him a good ninja of Konoha, even if he makes mistakes and more. At least his heart was in the right place, and that made him a real man, not a beast. That impressed Fenrix and made Naruto cry as the Dragon Ascendant watched as Naruto fought Mizuki, and he had saved the man he considered family. It seemed that the boy would reach his dreams, and there was good promise in the boy after all. He also took the time to study Konoha and its people well to know what was it about this simple warrior village that sparked the interest of his master, and it seemed that a considerable portion of the people here had good talent and ability, and he was interested in the bloodlines in this village, though compared to the dormant bloodline in his soon-to-be student, theirs would need a lot of work to come close to even a fraction of the power lying dormant in Naruto. However, Fenrix had his worries to think about as he looked at the happy scene between Naruto and Iruka, who he knew well enough. From now on we're rivals. Naruto and Konohamaru looked at one another, and the two gave grins at one another, and they parted as good friends and rivals, as they were getting ready for the soon-to-come time that they would fight one another for the title of Hokage. Fenrix looked on and noted the change in Konohamaru when the boy associated with his future charge. The boy had finally understood that defeating his grandfather would never earn him the title. He had to work hard and train hard to be a true successor to the title of Hokage, and if he had not associated with Naruto, then it would have never sunk into his mind. His charge was proving to be a very interesting person. Fenrix couldn't help but chuckle a little as he watched Naruto work with his new team. This Sasuke was supposed to possess the Sharingan, a bloodline trait that granted considerable abilities to its owner, though the Dragon Ascendant had not seen it in action yet. The boy was cool and aloof and took great pride in his training, and Naruto disliked him for it. Sakura was a smart girl and possessed a considerable level of chakra control, and was the best in written scores, and intelligent. Fenrix could see that while Sakura didn't seem to be special, she had other abilities that were different from the others. He observed Kakashi and admitted that while the Jonin was late considerably, loved reading perverted books, and more, the man had great promise as a ninja, and according to what he had researched about the Jonin sensei, he was a good teacher for them all at the moment. And he had to admit that this Jonin would be interesting to see in action. Fenrix nodded as he watched Naruto speak with Haku in the forest. He had been concerned when Haku attempted to harm Naruto, but he was curious why he stopped. He listened to the conversation between the two, and while he had a feeling that he should move in, he chose instead to watch once more to see what will happen. Later, as Naruto and his team left Wave Country, Fenrix smiled all the more as he looked at how well the boy had grown, and he would prove to be a very interesting student to teach. However, the Dragon Ascendant had his worries. The Kyuubi would no doubt have restrained the power of his master's ceremonially consecrated blood early as his master had told him, and despite the power of his master's blood, it had been held off by the Kyuubi until the demon's hold was removed. Then there was no way for Naruto to gain the full powers bestowed upon him by his master Valen. For now all he could do at this moment was wait and observe as the team headed back to Konoha. Damn it, Fenrix swore as he watched a battle between this grass genin, who was more than what he seemed in the Forest of Death. He had observed Naruto and his team barely dodged the bullet in the first exam stage, and now here they were in the Forest of Death, which reminded the Dragon Ascendant of the Forest of Eternal Sorrow centuries before in his time. He observed them and watched as Naruto fought with this grass genin alongside Sasuke, but in the end it was a difficult battle. However, he spotted the grass genin, striking the area where the seal that held the Kyuubi was located, and the strike given by the being. Fenrix stopped just about as he was to enter the fray after so long in observing his young charge when he sensed something flowing in Naruto's body. He focused his eyes on Naruto, seeing past his clothes, skin, flesh and body into his very being, and saw something that he had hoped to see in a very long while. The sight of his master's blood flowing and mixing with Naruto's own blood, the glowing blood of a dragon king mixing with that of a mortal body, granting power to the one it was given to, the birth of a dragon ascendant, an event never seen by others in nearly 3,000 years. So it has begun, but the boy's mind has not adapted yet, and neither has the body. This is not good. He watched as Sakura tried her best to protect both Sasuke and Naruto, and he could only wait and see what will happen, and hope that something good will come out of this, despite his reservations in the matter. He observed as the Sound Genin were about to attack, and then the arrival of the other Konoha teams that he had seen to help them. He gave a growl at the sight of Sasuke being controlled by the mark of that grass genin, and watched as the man attacked without mercy and injured his attackers, and he watched as Sakura managed to stop him, but it was then that he sensed the upwell of power inside Naruto, but sensed that it was growing too fast. Fenrix quickly knew that the time to act was now. It was then that Dosu and everyone in the area was treated to the sound of a massive and primordial scream. The sound filled the forest, and the sound was enough to make all of them freeze, and even Lee was shocked back to being away, and then they turned. Aha. Naruto was awake but gripped in pain and rage as he thrashed about in a fury as golden-colored mist flowed from his body. Sasuke, Sakura, Ino, Shikamaru, Choji, Niji, Lee, Tenten, and Dosu could only look in shock as Naruto roared in pain as he moved about, and there was golden mist that was seeping out of his very skin. The blonde genin roared in a very inhuman way and was thrashing about as if he was being burned alive internally. Naruto, my god, what's happening to him? What's wrong with the dope? Did that ninja have something to do with this? What the heck is this and why is it Naruto's chakra is expanding? Naruto suddenly tore off his upper clothes and exposed his upper body, and to the shock of everyone, there were glowing white symbols on his body, moving like living flame all over him, and then they began to glow golden as the mist seemed to fade back into Naruto's body, and to shock of just about everyone, Naruto was growing right in front of them. The glowing energy turned into an intricate series of tattoos that were unlike anything they had ever seen before, and there on Naruto's chest were 5 glowing points of light. One was deep red like blood, another was as white as a cloud in the sky, another was a deep blue as the sky and water, another was deep brown like the color of earth, and the last was deep yellow like gold itself. The lights faded into spots that still seemed to glow as Naruto keeled over with his hands covering his face, as his body was covered in gold tattoos with silver lining. His hair was longer now and seemed to shimmer for some reason. Naruto then moved his hands away and spread them out in a roar that made the very air vibrate with great intensity, and then he revealed his face also covered in tattoos, which did not remove the whisker marks he had, and his eyes were glowing deep blue. The blonde ninja suddenly growled once more as he charged right at Dosu and the other sound ninja in a speed that dwarfed that of Sasuke when the flame-like tattoos came alive. What the? Dosu barely and enough time to leap back with Kin and Zaku with him when the tree behind him was blown to splinters by Naruto's punch as the blonde genin was roaring out in absolute battle rage, almost like a berserker. The leader of the sound genin could only look in shock at how easily the blonde had reduced the tree into kindling. My god, did Orochimaru brand the blondie with the cursed seal too? No, that is not the cursed seal, it's something else entirely, and that power, it's enormous. Even Sasuke's chakra in the cursed seal form can't match that level. We have to escape now. Bruire. Naruto leaped out at Dosu and lashed out with a powerful wave of pure destructive chakra that the ninja barely evaded as it reduced a nearby tree and a boulder into nothing. Naruto stopped and roared in anger as he looked about to seek his prey. The other ninja were shocked by this change in Naruto and tried to stay away. Sakura stepped forward and spoke carefully. Naruto. What's wrong with you? Ino, who had fully recovered from the technique she used on the sound genin Kin, was shocked that Sakura was actually trying to talk to Naruto, who was somehow in a feral rage. She got up and shouted. Forehead girl. What are you doing? Get away from there. Naruto turned, and his glowing gaze was aimed right at Sakura, who stopped as she was paralyzed with fear, as something in Naruto's glowing gaze was primal and deadly. The blonde ninja opened his mouth and out came silver mist from his mouth, and he clenched his fists and was about to move. Sakura barely had time to react when Naruto was now right in front of her in a heartbeat. She had barely moved an inch, and despite being nearly 20 feet from her, Naruto closed the gap instantaneously. My god, he moved so fast I didn't even see it. However, Naruto didn't attack Sakura at first, merely gazed at her and then raised his right hand, and his clawed fingers touched Sakura's cheek for a moment, and he growled softly, making the others tense up even more. Somehow, Naruto was not attacking Sakura, but that could all change. It was then that a voice was heard. Naruto. Naruto and the others turned to see a robed and hooded man appear. The man was taller than any of them, almost the same height as Kakashi himself. The man removed his hood and robes and showed that he was wearing pants, armored boots, and forearm guards, as well as a simple shirt. The man suddenly growled in a way that resembled Naruto, and to the shock of the ninjas present, the man's body was suddenly covered in the same gold and silver mist, and in a moment he too had the same tattoos as Naruto did, though in a different pattern than the ones Naruto had. The new arrival had his own eyes glow the same way Naruto's did, but his gaze was deep green. Naruto roared out and charged, and the man did likewise, and both began to attack one another. Their punches connected and unleashed a powerful shockwave that knocked the ninja down to the ground with sheer force as the wind seemed to explode from the blows the two unleashed on each other. Sasuke shook his head and looked on with shock evident on his face. How can that dope's blow become that powerful? Sakura was greatly concerned as she looked to see the two facing each other off in combat. Questions were everywhere in her mind, but two were the most serious questions that were in her mind as she witnessed what was going on before her. What's going on? Who is that guy? The two traded punches and kicks at one another, and the sounds of the impact were enough to make everyone hearing it wince as it sounded very painful, but the two continued to throw attacks at one another at the moment. The ninja watched as Naruto's punch was evaded and a nearby boulder was shattered and reduced to powder in a heartbeat as the two warriors charged at one another. Naruto was totally focused on the new arrival and this allowed them to all hide. Neji deactivated his Byakugan as he was nearly blinded by the massive bonfire of power that flooded Naruto's veins and chakra pathways. That power was incredible. He didn't have that kind of power when he was in the Chunin exam's first stage. What is going on here? The two traded blow after blow, and the area before them was now a ruined battleground, as if two titanic forces had clashed her and tore up the lands before them in a violent and brutal fashion. However, the new stranger fought with a precision and focus that showed that despite Naruto's power, he was not just equal to Naruto, but more than a match in power, and also more skilled. However, the warrior had other ideas. This is not going to end well. I might have gained his full attention, but his power is still too wild. That demon must have heavily sealed the blood of my master greatly, allowing it to grow without adapting to his body properly. At this stage he will not be able to fully control it. I must restrain him and suppress his powers quickly before he ends up ripping this entire forest apart and attack anyone close to him including his friends. The warrior dodged Naruto's next barrage of kick and quickly leaned backward as Naruto racked the air with his claws, and it was then that the stranger took out a pair of forearm guards and clamped them on Naruto's arms. Instantly the forearm guards glowed and latched on Naruto and Naruto roared out in surprise and back away, and to the amazement of the others. They all saw the tattoos on Naruto glow once more and rapidly fade away and retract back into Naruto's body. Naruto thrashed about and still roared and growled until he suddenly stopped and turned, allowing them to see that his eyes were back to their normal form, and then Naruto collapsed, falling unconscious and snoring once more. Thank goodness I made it in time. Sakura directed her attention to the new arrival who fought with Naruto and have the same tattoos as Naruto did. She knew that somehow this person or whatever he was had been able to restrain Naruto and bring her teammate back to normal. Was not a threat. If he was, then none of them would be alive at this moment. Without hesitating, the pink-haired ninja stepped out from her hiding place and spoke. Hey. Who are you? The person turned and without effort, his tattoos faded and his glowing eyes returned to normal, and he then spoke. My name is FanFiction. It's safe now, you all can come out. Your companion Naruto's been restrained by the bracers and is back to normal. All he needs to do now is rest a bit. The other ninja got out of their hiding places just as Kiba, Akamaru, Shino, and Hinata arrived on the scene. As they gathered, they looked at the sleeping blonde ninja who a few minutes before was covered in tattoos, unleashing terrifying amounts of pure power and was now able to devastate the landscape, and then they directed their attention to FanFiction, who kneeled down and checked Naruto's condition with a glowing hand. The blood is now melding with his properly, but the power is still too wild. He will have to keep the bracers on until he adapts properly to his newly awakened bloodline. Sasuke was shocked by this, and so was everyone in the group. Naruto, the class clown, the least skilled ninja of them all, the loudmouth, actually had a bloodline. Sasuke then spoke. Who are you? FanFiction merely observed Naruto and spoke. Like I said, Sasuke Uchiha, my name is FanFiction. How do you know my name? I know a great deal about you, Sasuke, and you as well, Sakura Haruno, along with everyone here at this moment in time. I know that the two of you who have the wide eyes are both cousins with the names Hinata Hyuga and Neji Hyuga respectively, and you both are members of the Hyuga clan, who have the special trait known as the Byakugan. I know that you, Sasuke, are the user of the Sharingan, and Sakura is the best in term of chakra control in the team that comprises you, her, and Naruto. I also know that the young man with the puppy on his head is Kiba Inuzuka, and the dog's name is Akamaru, and both are members of the Inuzuka family, famous for their alliance with canine familiars. Both of them are in the same team as young Hinata there, and with Shino Aburam, whose clan are known for their unique alliance with the destruction bugs that inhabit their bodies. I am also aware of Niji's team, comprising of Tenten, who is considered to be the best weapons expert in her team, as well as young Rock Lee, who's unable to perform ninjutsu and jinjutsu, but is a master of taijutsu. I also know that the one who loves to eat is Choji Akamichi of the Akamichi clan, who can manipulate their body size easily. The other is Shikamaru Nara, who possesses a very high IQ despite his laziness and is a user of shadow manipulation. And lastly, the blonde lady is Ino Yamanaka, whose family are known for being able to switch minds with their enemies. I know everything about you all. The revelation that he knew all of them and even their bloodline traits made the ninja even more curious as to who he was at this moment. FanFiction, however, pressed on and gave the ninja a very simple smile that denoted that he knew a lot more than he let on. I even know who your respective teachers are as well, and more besides. The ninja were very tense at this as FanFiction looked back at Naruto, and it was Sakura who spoke. Are you a spy or something? No, I know these things because I have been observing this village for some time, but without any malice or ill will. You were interesting subjects and people to boot, but my real target was Naruto here. After all, he is going to be my student in the near future. What do you mean? FanFiction stood up and replied. Naruto is the inheritor of an ancient power older than anything you all can imagine. Within him flows the ceremonially consecrated blood of beings more powerful than any who walk the land. Naruto has in his body Dragon King blood, and that makes him a truly powerful Dragon Ascendant just like me. What? It was then that Naruto began to wake up, and Fenric smiled at this. There was much to do at the moment, things had to be explained, and more besides, but now that Naruto's body was beginning to adapt and grow stronger with the power flowing in his veins, then the real training will begin. To be continued. Knowledge is power. In the forest of death, Hiba couldn't help but shake his head a bit as he, Akamaru, Shino, and Hinata moved on to make it to the tower, as they already had their own scrolls to enter the place. The young Inyazuka couldn't help but remember the words spoken by the stranger named Fenrix. I can't believe that Naruto has that kind of power. Who would have thought he'd have that? It is odd that Naruto never had that power back in the academy, but my destruction bugs panicked greatly when they sensed that power. I guess, but how the heck does he have a bloodline? He certainly never showed it back in the academy. Hinata was silent for the most part, but she couldn't help but wonder what the future was for her longtime crush. She hoped that he would be fine and would soon make it to the tower, as he had done so much to make it this far, and to not make it would really hurt him. Her thoughts then wandered to the stranger who was there with Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke at the moment, but for now her team had to worry about getting to the tower. They were not the only ones, as Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji were moving along, as well as the team of Lee, Niji, and Tenten. As they made their way to the tower, they couldn't help but wonder what the future would hold for them, as they were getting closer to being Chunin. Well, they thought of what will happen when they would meet with Naruto and the members of his team. Shikamaru had to admit that he had thought that Naruto's team would be easy to deal with, even with Sasuke present. Now he was happy he didn't push through with that idea. Meanwhile, at a clearing, Naruto looked at the ruins that were once his favorite clothes and was not the least bit happy at the moment, and it was understandable as he didn't have any spare clothes to use at the moment and had been given a spare shirt by Fenrix. The young man in question was hauling a pair of massive tigers that appeared to be dead with their necks broken. And the three genin could only watch with some queasiness how the man methodically skinned the dead animals and began to cook the meat. Fenrix looked at the three and spoke. You three can relax for now, you have had a very busy day, and you need to get your strength back as much as you can. Naruto couldn't help himself and spoke. Who are you exactly? Fenrix grinned at that and replied. I suggest you three get some food in your stomachs before we talk about the past. You'll need the energy for the mission of getting the scroll you need at the moment, and you still have one scroll to keep safe, so I doubt that fighting on an empty stomach is a good idea. The growling stomachs of all three genin convinced them that he was right, and they dug into the cooking meat, and while they were not big fans of eating tiger meat, the food was at least good to the taste buds and worth eating at the moment. Naruto and Fenrix, however, were eating like mad as they ate as much food as they could get, surprising both Sasuke and Sakura. The two were finally eating enough meat to feed at least 6 people, and the two could only look on in wonder. As soon as the two placed aside their plates, both gave explosive burps, and Sakura couldn't help but chuckle a bit at the sight. Fenrix laughed a bit and decided that now was the time to tell Naruto a portion of the information that he carried. Now you are wondering who I really, then I will tell you. You three already know my name and what I am, at least at first. So therefore, I will explain as best I can. On what I am, I was once human, like the three of you, but I underwent a ceremony that granted me the power and ability of a dragon. It was known as the Blood Ascension ceremony. This ceremony is ancient, older than anything that exists, and has not been practiced in nearly 9 millennia. Naruto scratched his head at that and asked, what's millennia? Millennia is a number of years, namely 1,000, so this special ceremony has not been done in nearly that long, 5,000 years. The dragon race was the first and the only race to have this powerful ritual. This ritual was made by the dragons to pass their powers onto other beings, namely humans. Long ago, when humans were still starting in the building of their civilization, dragons took notice of them and were interested in humanity. They saw that while humans were a short-lived race and could die easily, they had great potential and drive, and the dragon race decided to give their powers to humans. These humans became the Dragon Ascendants like myself. Sasuke listened as he couldn't help but wonder just what was going on and how exactly did Naruto fit in all this. Sakura was the one who asked the question. How does Naruto fit in all this? In due time, Sakura Haruno, the Dragon Ascendants, rose in power, and they used their powers in many ways. Some used their powers for the betterment of their people, while others did it for their own desires and for destruction. This made dragons realize that humans were capable of great good and great evil in equal measure. Over the years that passed, the humans who gained the powers of the Blood Ascension ceremony were able to forge vast civilizations and cultures, but as time passed, later generations of humans believed that they could become even more powerful than the dragon race by killing them and forcing them to give them the secrets of the Blood Ascension ceremony so they would be truly invincible. They attacked the dragons. Yes, their efforts were clumsy and foolish, even the Ascendants who were tempted with the idea of surpassing their former benefactors were easily defeated by the older and wiser dragons and their leaders the Dragon Kings, as well as the Ascendants who were against the whole idea. However, this signaled to the dragon race that they had to leave humanity to their fates and carve their own future without interference. Thus was the beginning of the dragon race from the world of men, as well as the other races in their charge, who were willing to follow them. Even a large number of Ascendants decided to leave the world with their dragon benefactors. Sasuke was getting a bit impatient, he wanted to know just how Naruto got a bloodline that he had never heard of before. Just how does Naruto fit in all this? We don't need the history lessons. FanFiction gave a dark glare at Sasuke that was enough to silence the Uchiha, as the eyes of the Dragon Ascendant took their glowing green hue. This made Naruto and Sakura nervous, as they had no idea how the situation will turn out. FanFiction then spoke seriously and showed his displeasure for Sasuke's actions. If you are so curious to know how your teammate fits in all this, then I hate to disappoint you Sasuke Uchiha, but you will have to wait. All things will be explained in due time and not before. So hold your tongue and listen first. Your world's history is tied to this story as well, so do me, your teammates, and yourself a good favor and be silent. Sasuke would have normally ignored the warning, but something about the change in FanFiction's demeanor told the Uchiha that he was treading on dangerous ground, and so he nodded as he held his tongue. FanFiction relaxed and took a deep breath to relax his own thoughts and continued to speak. The Dragon Ascendants who were left behind thought that their already existing power was all they needed, but they were partially wrong in that assumption, since while they retained their powers, those powers were not able to be properly unlocked to their full potential after succeeding generations over time. The powers they once possessed eventually lost a great deal of its original power and potency, and without the teachings of the dragon race, as well as their knowledge, the powers were either heavily degraded or were eventually left to die and never return into the world of men. Not all the powers, however, faded and still existed and became bloodline inheritances. In the language of your world is Kekai Genkai, I believe. Sasuke was shocked to hear this, and FanFiction spoke to Sasuke directly. Now do you understand what I meant about your world's history being tied to what I was telling about the dragon race and the blood ascension ceremony? Or are you saying that, yes, this world, your world, thousands of years ago was part of the many worlds inhabited by dragons, and they too passed their powers to the humans who lived here. Your ancient ancestors were also dragon ascendants, and like before attempted to wrestle the power away from the dragon race, forcing their benefactors to leave, and those ascendants began to lose the full potency of their powers. But their powers did not die out quickly like the others, and their bloodlines were not destroyed despite being degraded. What this means is that your Sharingan, in fact all the known and still to be seen Kekai Genkai of this world, are actually the degraded remains of the old dragon ascendant blood that existed thousands of years ago. Sasuke was stunned by this, and he couldn't help but feel angry at the thought that his clan's most respected Kekai Genkai was being seen as a degraded form of power. His people had become legends with the Sharingan, and he would not allow that fact to be downplayed by this stranger. You're calling the Sharingan of my clan to be nothing but a watered down and weak power. FanFiction was not intimidated by Sasuke's words and replied. I am not insulting it, I am merely stating what I know and what I have learned. You're lying. Why would I lie? What would I possibly gain by it? And do not think to attack me out of revenge or anger Sasuke. I might not look like it, but what you have witnessed before is merely a tiny fraction of my true power. I am already 1,500 years old by human standards and years, and I am far more powerful and skilled than Naruto, despite his status as a dragon ascendant like me. I have more power and ability than you could ever hope to accomplish in your lifetime, so if you decide to fight me, know that I can easily crush you like an annoying insect, so I suggest you calm down and keep in mind that I have no interest in you as an enemy for that matter. So don't waste either my time or yours, for both our sakes. Naruto was getting even more confused. Wait a minute here. When did I ever become a dragon ascendant? I don't recall ever taking part in the ceremony or even meeting a dragon, so how the heck can I be an ascendant? Sakura nodded at that as she wanted to know even more on this mystery. I have to agree with Naruto. If what you said was true, then there have been no dragons in our world for nearly 10,000 years, and if the blood ascension ceremony has not been done for that long, how could Naruto become an ascendant if there are no dragons in our world and they are the only ones who can make the ceremony work? FanFiction smiled. Finally, you are asking the right questions. Tell me something, Naruto, have you ever met a man by the name of Valen in your younger years? Naruto thought back as the name was very familiar to him, and as he thought hard, it was not long before he recalled the foreigner who had become his friend for a number of months before he had left on his birthday all those years ago. Yeah, I remember someone with that name. He was so cool. I remember him scarring a number of villagers with that cool fire serpent jutsu that used no hand seals. It was awesome. I asked him to teach it to me, but he said he couldn't. Do you know him? FanFiction nodded. Yes, I do. Valen was my master and a dragon king, one of the 5 rulers of the dragon race. No one was more shocked than Naruto himself. No way Valen was a dragon, but he didn't look the least like a dragon. He was human. Dragons have many powers, one of which was the ability to take a human appearance, unlike Ascendants who were humans to begin with and thus can take a dragon-like appearance once their powers and bodies had fully matured and at their highest levels of power. He was able to begin the blood ascension ceremony and bestowed his consecrated blood to you on your birthday when you last saw him. Do you remember the cup that he handed to you during your birthday? Naruto recalled that and he was shocked even more. I drank his blood. Yes, and it was already consecrated, thus you were able to receive its power in full form, and that makes you the very first Dragon Ascendant to walk this world. However, the reason your powers awakened late in your life was that due to certain circumstances, your dragon blood was sealed away in your body, and it was only now that it awakened. Fenrir sighed and thought back on the other Dragon Ascendants who woke late to their powers for different reasons, and what were the results of that. Naruto then looked at the bracers that were on his hands, and Fenrir noted that and spoke. Those bracers are specially crafted and enchanted. When you awakened to your dragon blood, you were not yet mentally and spiritually strong enough to control your power and your Dragon King bloodline, which resulted in you becoming a berserker, and you attacked others who you saw. If I had not stepped in, you might have turned on your friends. What? Why couldn't I remember this? Your human mind had not adapted well to the power, and you regressed into a more bestial state, and do not think you are the first. There have been others who were late in awakening to their hidden powers and their bloodlines, and they had to wear these bracers which were placed on them by their mentors. These are not meant to be permanent, however. Once you have developed the mental and spiritual strength, the bracers will no longer restrain your powers. They will eventually unlock themselves, and you can remove them, but until you develop the control and focus needed, then they remain with you. He then looked at Sasuke, who was still fuming mad, and replied towards Naruto and Sasuke. Also, since this is your first time using a bloodline such as this, Naruto, you will have to start from scratch. Unlike the Sharingan, which has been handed down from generation to generation among the Uchiha clan, your power is still in its infancy and is not yet fully grown in dragon terms. You're still very much a hatchling, and thus, your powers will need to be refined and perfected. So I have to learn how to use this power properly. Correct, that is why Master Valen sent me to be your guardian and teacher in the ways of the Dragon Ascendants. Another thing that I can tell you is that as a Dragon Ascendant, you can also undertake the Blood Ascension ceremony in order to pass a portion of your already existing power to another individual to make him a Dragon Ascendant as well. That got Sasuke's attention right off the bat as he looked at both Naruto and Fenrir. However, this is something that is not to be taken lightly. You have to grow in power, knowledge, skill, and more before you can do so. If you attempt to do the Blood Ascension ceremony without the proper training, maturity in body, mind, spirit and experience, plus without the fully mature power, the results could be disastrous for both you and that one you wish to pass your powers to. How disastrous would it be? Sasuke asked, and Fenrir simply replied. You both can either suffer intense pain both physically and mentally, as well as crippling yourselves and being reduced into invalids, or if things go really wrong, then the both of you will die. The silence was deafening at that, and as soon as the reality set in, Fenrir then decided that now was the time to explain to Naruto some of the basic powers that he possessed at the moment due to his dragon blood. However, even with the bracers on, you are already unleashing signs of your powers, at least not totally visible ones. Hand me a kunai. Naruto and the others looked at one another and were very hesitant, but Sakura handed Fenrir one, and he took the weapon and spoke to Naruto. Naruto, give me your arm. Naruto did so, and before he could blink, Fenrir grabbed his arms and stabbed him with the kunai. The ninjas panicked and quickly drew weapons, while Naruto was released, and Fenrir laughed as he showed them the kunai, which was broken, and several of its blade was actually shattered at the moment on the ground. The others were surprised by this, and Naruto looked at his arm and saw that there was not a single drop of blood, not even a scratch. How? That, Naruto, is but the very first sign of your body adapting to the power that now flows in your veins. You might not see it, but there are tiny and near invisible scales that are melding with your skin at the moment. That is dragon skin, and it is a basic power that all dragon ascendants are given as they adapt to their powers. As you can see, this power is able to make your skin similar to dragon skin, which is a lot tougher than normal skin and can withstand blades and powerful forms of physical and magical attacks. Naruto was looking at his uninjured arm and was smiling a bit as the ramifications began to set into his mind at the moment. So I am invincible. Not exactly. Well, the dragon skin may make you stronger and tougher. You are not immortal or unstoppable. The ability makes you much harder to injure, but specially made blades with enchantments and the attacks of those who have very high levels of physical and spiritual strength can still injure you, but if anyone attempts to attack you with multiple blades and attacks, then you cannot be harmed. This power is different since as humans, ascendants do not lose their sense of touch like dragons do. Huh? Normal dragon scales grow on dragons every time, and when that happens, they slowly lose their sense of touch, so they sacrifice their sense of touch for the added defense. Ascendants will had that toughness, but not in the same degree as that of dragons themselves, and as such, don't lose their sense of touch. Do you get the idea? Naruto nodded at that, and he was even more curious about what other abilities he had under his command at the moment. What else do I have? You have the basic senses of a dragon, increased sight range, smell, hearing, taste, and touch physically. You have increased strength, though at the moment that is controlled by the bracers, as well as increased speed and stamina. You will develop also a dragon's immunity to illusions over time, as well as their resistance to various elements, toxins, and weakness. Will I even grow wings? Eventually you will, and they will be in the form of energy, but at the moment you have no wings at the moment. Those take time to grow properly and also to control. You certainly don't need those wings to suddenly sprout out in the middle of a busy street, you know. Anyway, here's one power you might find useful when the time comes. Do you see that tree over there? Naruto turned in the direction that Fenrix was pointing and nodded. But now then, imagine your breath in your lungs becoming as hot and as intense as fire, and then unleash your breath at that tree. Naruto did so, and to his shock and that of the others, his breath did become flame as a massive tongue of fire was unleashed from his mouth at that exact moment of action, and the tree was easily incinerated in a matter of moments by the sudden unleashing of flame on it. All that was left of the once massive tree was a pile of pure ash. Naruto clasped his mouth in shock as he looked at the large tree that he had just reduced into nothing but ash in merely a moment. As soon as he was feeling a bit calmer, he turned to speak to Fenrix, who watched in approval, while Sasuke and Sakura were looking on with great surprise, and as soon as he was able to recover from the sight, he spoke to Fenrix. Did I just breath fire? Yes, you did. Fire breathing is very normal for dragons, and it's child's play for ascendants, and unlike the fire-based jutsus done by ninja, what you did is a very basic and simplistic technique, and as you can see, it does not rely on hand seals. There are other breath techniques that you can use, but those will come in time. For now, however, I suggest we get moving. This cooking fire will no doubt attract all manner of predators and other ninja, and while we can handle them well enough, now is not the time, and you three need to find another team to get their scroll. Am I correct? As they moved out, Kabuto made his appearance, and while the genin who had taken the exam 7 times was surprised to meet the Dragon Ascendant, he couldn't do much at the moment, as Fenrix had no intention of leaving his charge alone for the time being. However, Fenrix did not trust Kabuto despite his pilot demeanor and manners, as he could tell due to his long years of experience. This seemingly kind person had a much darker personality and had an ulterior motive. He watched as Kabuto observed both Sasuke and Naruto, and that was the thing that made the Ascendant very wary at the moment. Naruto was eager to tell Kabuto about his new powers, but Fenrix gave him a very serious look, and despite being confused as to why his teacher in the art of the Dragon Ascendance was giving him that look, he knew that he should not reveal anything yet about his powers, and thus he kept his trap shut. They were able to track a genin team from the village of Hidden Waterfall and managed to get their scroll, and they were able to make it to the tower, and as soon as they got there, Naruto and others were able to get the scrolls open and then walk through the scrolls. None other than Iruka, who despite being surprised by the presence of Fenrix, who had joined the trio, had told them that they passed and secret behind the 2 scrolls and the next parts of the Chunin exams. However, Fenrix had other ideas as he spoke to Iruka. I need to speak to the Hokage if at all possible. Why do you want to see the Hokage? And who are you? Tell him that Valen's old student is here to see him. Iruka remembered Valen very easily and could see that this man had the same level of manners as Naruto's old foreign friend had at the moment. However, like before, he couldn't help but feel that this guy had a hidden power, the same way Valen did, but if he was Valen's student, then he was alright in his book. It did not take long for the Hokage to arrive, and Fenrix bowed before him and spoke. Greetings, here is in Sarutobi. You are exactly as my master Valen described. The Hokage nodded and looked at Naruto, and like before when he sensed a fraction of Valen's powers, he sensed the same at the moment in Naruto and knew that now was the time for the truth to come out. However, there was the fact that Valen's plans for Naruto had to be put into motion, and while Naruto had no idea what his foreign Dragon King friend had done for him, the Hokage had no doubt that things were going to be very interesting. With that in mind, he asked Iruka to guide Sasuke and Sakura to the main area where the other genin teams were at the moment. Naruto and Fenrix, however, were brought to another place in the tower, and sure enough, as soon as they entered the room, there were the council members of Konoha. As Sarutobi sat down, he knew that this day was by far going to be the longest he would ever be in. At the moment, he wondered just what would happen if Orochimaru found out about Naruto's unique bloodline. He thought back on the day he discovered just who Valen was. Flashback, Sarutobi was surprised to see himself not in the Hokage Tower, but in a massive field filled with grass and flowers. There were clear skies and clouds all over the place. It was a beautiful sight at the moment, and it was then that he saw Valen. but the human disappeared and then was replaced by a massive reptilian creature with wings and a long tail. His scales were deep platinum in color and there were a number of large gems that were on his body and a crown-like protrusion of pure crystal on the head of the massive creature that moved back, and his wings were releasing some sort of wispy light that were of many colors like the rainbow. What in the name of the kami? Calm yourself, here is in Sarutobi, I am in my real form, that of a dragon king. Valen, is that really you? But it is, you are in my mind, here is in Sarutobi, and you are seeing me in my true form. I have never revealed this form to other humans in nearly 9,000 years. You are the first mortal in your world's history to see me in my full might. The human form I take not only allows me to blend among humans and other mortals, but submerges my full powers. The Hokage was stunned and wondered how to act. Long ago, when he was a child, he had been told ancient tales about dragons, and he was truly fascinated by the old legends about how dragons would bestow great powers on humans and how these powers became legend, but he never truly believed them. But here he was now in the mind of a dragon, and it was talking to him. Relax, young one, you might be old by human standards, but to me and my race, you are still very young. Now come sit and I shall tell you of some truly amazing tales that I doubt even the greatest of your village had ever known, and what is my reason for being here. End of flashback. As he thought back on those things and Valen's desire to aid Naruto, he couldn't help but look at the young boy. He had been told that Valen had every intention to give Naruto a true power older than anything that existed, the very origin of all the Kekkei Genkai of this world. The power of the dragon race. It was something he thought he would ever have the honor of seeing, but he worried about how the council would react to this news at the moment. However, Valen had planned ahead, and even the professor had to admit that it was pure genius and beneficial to the village at the same time. Valen had also told him about his chosen teacher for Naruto in the ways of the Dragon Ascendants, and Fenrix proved to be everything his master told him about. As they sat back, a number of people gave curious looks to Fenrix and hostile ones to Naruto. The Hokage sighed at that, but he could tell that Fenrix was glaring back, and he couldn't help but be slightly amused at the sight of the council members being cowed a bit by the glare. The older, wiser, and more powerful and skilled Dragon Ascendant, Amura, his old teammate, was the very first to speak. We are here as you asked, Hokage-sama. What is this about? This discussion is twofold. Recently we have learned that Orochimaru had returned to the village and has already begun to make his move on our homeland. There is no doubt in my mind that he is planning something sinister on our village. The council were deep in discussion the very moment Orochimaru's name was brought up, and it was then that Anko arrived and gave her report on what was discovered when they found the real grass ninja who were all dead, and also what Orochimaru told her. The news that Sasuke Uchiha was the target of Orochimaru caused considerable concern from the council. They knew the power of the Sharingan, and if Orochimaru had interest in it, then they would be ready for anything at the moment. As they planned out a strategy, it was then that one council member spoke to the rest. Hokage-sama, why is Naruto Uzumaki here in this chamber? The Hokage nodded and knew that now was the time to drop the news of Naruto's newly awakened bloodline to the Konoha Council. In fact, he couldn't help but admit mentally to himself that he was going to enjoy this. This has something to do with an incident no less than 5 years ago. The Hokage then told the council about the arrival of Valen to the village and what he had learned from the disguised Dragon King, namely on the blood ascension ceremony. The council were silent and none of them asked any questions. But many of them were directing their attention to Naruto and were studying him, trying to determine just how could this child who carried the Kyuubi could have such a bloodline. As soon as Sarutobi was done, he spoke to Fenrix as he had been told by Valen that since his student was the same as Naruto but older, more experienced, and wiser, he would know far more and he would truly give the council a lot to think about at the moment. And true enough, when Fenrix told the council what he had told Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura about the blood ascension ceremony and the history of their own world thousands of years ago, there was an uproar. The council members were looking at Naruto incredulously and were talking back and forth. This knowledge shocked the very council to their knees, and it had taken a few minutes for the knowledge to sink in and take hold of the people. To think that this kid had a Kekkei Genkai that was the progenitor of all the known Kekkei Genkai was in one word astonishing. Sarutobi took this all in stride and then removed a special document that he had made and waited to put into action for nearly 5 long years. This was going to elevate Naruto to a whole new level, befitting the powers he had now been awakened to. I have been planning to deal with this for some time, and therefore, considering that Naruto is the sole owner of this Kekkei Genkai and is a citizen of the village of Konoha, it is by law that as a user of a Kekkei Genkai, Naruto is to become the head of his own clan that will take his last name as of today. Naruto Uzumaki is now head of the Uzumaki clan. Naruto was stunned by this as well as overjoyed. In just one day, he had gone from a simple genin with a dark secret to the head of his own clan and wielding a Kekkei Genkai that was now recognized as the progenitor of all the Kekkei Genkai in existence. Amura and Kaharu were very much in shock, as well as just about everyone in the council, and it took a few minutes for Hamura to speak. We need proof to see if this is all true. Fenrix nodded and replied. Fair enough. As the council was ended with Naruto swearing not to reveal anything to his team and also to prepare for the soon-to-come announcement of his being head of his own clan. Fenrix and Naruto went back to the other genin, with the Hokage planning to speak to Kakashi in secret soon about all that was happening in the shadows. Fenrix then spoke to him in secret. "Naruto, I will allow you to use your powers in this fight. Once you start the fight you will be part of, summon your Dragon King blood, and when you feel its powers come say the words, Dragon King blood release, and think of an elemental form. How will that work? You'll see." As Naruto arrived, the others were surprised that he finally arrived, and the Hokage then told them the true purpose of the exams and what was about to happen. Sasuke himself was eager to get things going. But apart from wanting to fight both Gaara and even Neji Hyuga, he had developed a desire to fight Naruto himself. He was not going to let this new Kekkei Genkai beat the Uchiha clan Sharingan, despite the fact that Naruto's Kekkei Genkai was opposed to the pure version and much more powerful than the Sharingan and the ancestor of the Sharingan. He would not let the Sharingan, the pride and honor of the Uchiha, be overshadowed by anything, even this Dragon King bloodline. The thought of using the Sharingan to beat Naruto had made the seal react, and he held his shoulder in pain once more. Sakura saw that and couldn't help but feel even more concerned by what was happening. She had seen and heard Orochimaru's dire warning and plans to take Sasuke, and she couldn't help but feel even more afraid of what might happen if Orochimaru. She was not the only one, however, in that train of thought. Tsurutobi, Ibiki, Kakashi and Anko watched the situation, and they each had their own thoughts on the matter. The elderly Hokage wondered if he was making the wrong move, but focused himself on the here and now, since if he tried to do something that could alert his former student of their plans, then things would be in even greater danger. For now, they had to play along that they were just becoming aware of the situation and keep Orochimaru in the dark about their covert plans. They didn't know where Orochimaru was right now, but there was no doubt that he would very well be watching, and he might be in the very same room as they all were. Naruto told them that Orochimaru had sent the Sound Genin as an assassination team for Sasuke, so that would mean that he could be in league with Sound or had manipulated them to fight for him. He didn't have enough data to make a move, and it was a very risky game he was playing, but it was the only option they had right now. Anko hoped that the others would see reason and have Sasuke placed in isolation so they could keep the cursed seal under wraps, but she reined in her thoughts and tried to think it over. The council made it clear that even if they were successful in keeping him sealed up, Orochimaru would no doubt act quickly and would kill as many people as he wants to force them to show how he would react to them. Trying to deny him his gift, she had a feeling that there would be more involved with Orochimaru's return to Konoha. She knew enough about her former sensei that he always had other plans buried in his current ones. Ibiki hated to admit it, but he knew how dangerous Orochimaru was. Even when he was the leader of the Anbu interrogation squad, he was afraid of Orochimaru, even when he was still a child. The snake-summoning boy with snake-like eyes and pale white skin seemed more monster than human to the battle-hardened special Jonin, and the horrible things that Orochimaru did for the sake of power and knowledge further reinforced his inner fear of Orochimaru. He knew that Orochimaru would not hesitate in any way to get what he wanted, and with any method. Not only was he known as a highly skilled ninja, but also as a master manipulator. He had no doubts in his mind that Orochimaru would have plans to help him as well. Kakashi was told about the cursed seal and heard Anko's words and how he defended the Sasuke and how Anko reacted. He actually understood Anko's anger and how she would look at Sasuke with worry and mistrust. He knew Anko had once been Orochimaru's student years ago when she was young, no doubt around Naruto's own age or younger. She had grown to hate and despise Orochimaru for his evil ways, and while she did have something of a dark streak in her nature, she was not evil in the full sense, and she had learned a number of useful jutsu. Like all others who knew her, he knew about cursed seal that she herself had, and while he told them the truth about Sasuke, he kept in mind that out the other children subjected by Orochimaru to the cursed seal before Sasuke was given the cursed seal. Anko was known to be only among the very few survivors of the cursed seal, as many like her died in great pain from the cursed seal, so she would know how deadly it was. He wondered if he should be ready to make his move, but for now he knew that he had to keep the binding technique ready should the cursed seal become too much. Sakura was about to raise her hand when Sasuke stopped her with a glare and spoke in a tone that demanded answers. "What are you doing, Sakura?" "Sasuke, you have to forfeit the matches for now." "Why the heck should I? Do you think I'm blind to how you're suffering from the effects of the cursed seal? You can barely use either your chakra or your Sharingan without that thing coming to life and injuring you even further. You can't hope to survive any fight with that thing eating you from the inside. Please, I am begging you as a friend and teammate to please forfeit, not for our sake but your own." Sasuke, however, didn't listen as he thought back on his oath: be stronger, to gain more power and more ability to finally accomplish his long dream of avenging his clan and killing the one responsible for the murder of all of his family by one of their own, his own. He then thought about his dream and what and who he was. He was no longer just a man, but an avenger, a being who sought power and would seek out that power regardless of its source, be it kind or evil. He wanted to show that he was strong, and he wielded power to defeat all who faced him, and the only way to gain it was to fight the strongest, and all of them were here, in this very tower. He could not afford to back down from this. Lee, Dosu, Gaara, Neji and Naruto were here in this room. If he backed down now he would never get another chance like this, and he was not going to be denied this chance. He would prove the power of the Sharingan for all to see, especially Fenrix and his student Naruto. The three genin however turned when someone spoke out. Okay, you got me, I'm out of this part. Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke turned to see Kabuto raising his hand, and that made Sasuke very wary of the Leaf Genin who was now leaving the scene. Holy Talon thought likewise and wondered just what was Kabuto up to. From what it could sense, the genin had more than enough chakra and physical strength to be in this match. Why was he backing out? Naruto was also curious and spoke. Hey Kabuto-san, why are you leaving? Kabuto turned and smiled a bit and replied. I'm sorry Naruto, but I had a heck of a hard time getting the scroll from the other team I fought with, and they really drained me, and even if we made it here now I'm still somewhat beat up, but I know you can do well. I know I'll miss it, but hey, don't worry about me, do your best, alright? Naruto looked sad but smiled and gave Kabuto a thumbs up signal. I will. Kabuto smiled back and gave the same reply as he left the area. However, he didn't get away scot-free. Sarutobi looked at the leaving form of Kabuto and recalled something. This was not the very first time he had seen this young man, and neither was this the first time he had seen the man leave the Chunin exams at this stage. At first, he had allowed it as there was truth to his claims, but now that this was the 7th time he had done this act, he got suspicious. He turned to Anko and Ibiki as well, and they were able to find out just who he was, namely his name of Kabuto Yakushi, and his times in the academy, and in the missions he had undertaken, and the times he had taken the Chunin exams. His grades were average, and he was not really much of a special case. However, Anko revealed that he was the child who was found among the enemy dead during a battle in Konoha's history, years before the Battle of Kikyu Pass, by one of the Konoha medic squads, and was taken in. And that boy grew up here, learning medical jutsus and had a very unremarkable career. That boy was Kabuto himself. As soon as Sarutobi got the details, he looked at Kabuto and thought to himself aloud. What sort of game is that young man playing with us? He wasn't the only one, as Kabuto was stopped by Yoroi, his fellow teammate and spy of Orochimaru. The two exchanged a hushed conversation, with Yoroi warning Kabuto about his playing games and keeping his loyalty to Orochimaru, to which Kabuto replied back that he doesn't have to worry, and to which Yoroi replied that while he was Orochimaru's favorite, he was certainly going beyond his bounds. Kabuto replied that he knew about Yoroi's desire to take his place, and now was his chance. With that, Kabuto bid farewell to both Naruto and Sasuke. Sorry I couldn't stay and fight, but if I did, the old me would have come back. I will be watching though. I hope you do well, Sasuke-kun, and you too, Naruto-kun. Besides, if I fought here and now I would be revealed as a spy and I wouldn't want that. The rest I leave to you and your capable hands, Orochimaru-sama. The sound Jonin looked on, but a thin smile appeared as Kabuto left the room, leaving the others to wonder on what they would do. However, Sasuke made up his mind already. As Sakura tried to raise her hand once more, he stopped her and replied. Sakura, this is my path. I chose it for myself. You have no right to tell me what I should do. I am your teammate and friend Sasuke-kun, and I can't just stand by and let that thing eat you alive. If you are truly my friend and teammate Sakura, then let me fight. This Chunin exam is more than an exam for me. I don't care much about the title of Chunin, I am an Avenger, nothing more. I have something to do no matter what, and I can't have myself stopped by anyone, not even you. All the strongest ninja are here and now. If I don't fight them here and now, then how can I see how strong I have become? I have to become strong no matter what. I won't let anything stop me, and that is what I want, and you have no right to stop me. Sakura looked on, sadly unable to say anything as she tried her best to reason with her teammate. Naruto, however, was far from happy with Sasuke's behavior toward Sakura, and he was not going to let Sasuke's attitude get the better of him. Sasuke team, you have to listen for one, stop acting so cool and focus on the truth. That damn seals. Sasuke then turned and gave a challenging look to Naruto. Naruto, you ought to know that you're one of the people I want to fight. That made Naruto glare back and wonder just what was going on in the mind of Sasuke, but they had no time to think about that as Heiei got the Chunin exams underway. He then showed them the screen nearby that would take the names of the genin present and pair them in one-on-one combat. Also, since there were 23 of them, then it would be a series of 11 matches to start the preliminaries. It didn't take long for the first match to begin, and much to Naruto and Sakura's dismay, it was Sasuke Uchiha against Yoroi Akudu. Sakura was stunned, while Sasuke smiled. Naruto gave a shake of his head, while Lee, Dosu, Neji, and Gaara decided to take a good long look at Sasuke and see just how he gets out of this one. As soon as that was announced, the genin and their Jonin sensei made their way to the upper terraces to watch the match and to stay away from the fight itself. I won't have this fight any other way. Deku then spoke. Alright, the names called forward, please come forward. Ichiban and Proctor then faced the men and asked them if they had any objections to the matchup between them, and they replied that they had none, while Orochimaru in his sound Jonin disguise smiled and watched on to see how this situation will play itself out. Sasuke then spoke to Yoroi. "You are going to be in for the fight of your life with me. Bring it on, Sasuke-cha." Yoroi said with a smile, which was naturally hidden by his veil as he looked at Sasuke, who looked back with a smirk. Naruto and Sakura looked on and wondered how things would turn out, while the others were looking with interest. Sasuke kept his cool, but held his shoulder in pain as the cursed seal once more reacted with his chakra. Hayate saw this and then gave the announcement that those who were not called were to leave and head for the upper levels for the match grounds to be clear of bystanders. As they got ready, Kakashi came by and was greeted with great enthusiasm by Naruto, and the Jonin spoke directly to Sasuke. "You have to be careful not to use your Sharingan, Sasuke. If that mark activates, then your life will be on a thin edge. So you know about the seal?" "Yes, and what it does to those who are infected with it, and just so you know, if this fight gets beyond your ability to handle, then I will stop the fight personally." Sasuke turned and was outraged by Kakashi's words to him, and it made him even more unhappy to know that there was some truth to Kakashi's words. If he used the Sharingan, he would be vulnerable when the cursed seal activated itself and allow his foe to beat him senseless. But he knew that it responded to his chakra quite often. "If I use my chakra, it grows stronger and its grip and Orochimaru's grip on me grows stronger. I have to beat Yoroi without my Sharingan, and my clan's jutsus are off limits as well. Maybe I can make him laugh to death instead." Orochimaru, however, was going to enjoy this fight. "You are going in for a good test, Sasuke-kun. Yoroi's unique talent should be a real challenge. I want to see if you can overcome it." Sasuke sighed mentally and psyched himself up and got ready nevertheless. The other teams got ready to watch as Kakashi hoped that Sasuke didn't overdo it and get himself in a real mess. As soon as Jaku gave the signal, both ninja went to work, as Yoroi threw some shuriken and Sasuke fired some kunai, but Sasuke was stunned to the ground when the cursed seal awakened, nearly leaving him open to attack. As Yoroi closed the gap, Sasuke quickly used his remaining strength to move out of the way of Yoroi's fist. He then used the kunai he had to get a grip on the floor and used his legs to kick Yoroi down to the ground, and then with several restraining moves, managed to knock Yoroi to the ground and opted to try and make Yoroi fall to submission. He got him. Naruto cheered, but Yoroi merely grinned and replied, "Really now? Who's got who, I wonder?" His hand glowed once more as he activated his own chakra and then grabbed Sasuke, and much to Sasuke's shock and disbelief, his chakra was being taken from his body. "What the hell is happening?" Yoroi then stuck hard, loosening Sasuke's grip and then forced his way through, and much to the shock of everyone in the room, except Orochimaru, who smiled sadistically as the spy from the Sound Village leaped back, and as Sasuke managed to get off the floor, the ninja then used his glowing hand once more and began to drain Sasuke's chakra, making Sasuke lose his power. Kakashi and the others looked on in surprise and disbelief as the Uchiha survivor was being placed in a deadly situation. My chakra, what the hell are you doing to my chakra?" "What, you're just noticing it now?" Yoroi replied as he laughed and continued his actions on the still weakened and disoriented Sasuke, who couldn't muster enough strength to break free just yet. Orochimaru noted and wondered how Sasuke would be able to handle this mess. Yoroi was indeed given such a unique talent. He could absorb the chakra of his foes with only a touch of his hand, quite a unique and deadly talent in the right hands and in the right circumstances, and this would make things even more difficult for Sasuke. "As soon as Yoroi takes your precious chakra, Sasuke-kun, you will have no other choice but to rely on my little gift to you, and we shall see how you do. Release that forbidden power, it will save you. After all, you have no choice in this matter." Sasuke managed to gather enough strength to kick Yoroi away from him, but he knew now that close combat with this guy was a serious mistake. If he got grabbed like that again, he was finished, but he was too weakened by the first two attacks that using either kunai or shuriken were a bad idea, and even if he could do it, the cursed seal would hurt even more. Yoroi, however, was not going to stop as he lashed out at Sasuke, and the Uchiha ninja tried to evade and managed to avoid some of the blows, but he got hit by the hand in the hair. However, instead of being a miss, the chakra absorbing technique affected him, quickly forcing him to lose even more of his strength, but he had enough to tolerate Yoroi's taunts and get some distance. "Sasuke-kun. Damn it. What the heck is wrong with you? Think of something fast or your history, Sasuke." Sasuke admitted that Naruto had a point, and then he realized that he had one chance. Part of it wasn't original, but heck, as things were at this moment, it was better than nothing. He waited and then made his move, managing to avoid Yoroi's next strike. He then attacked with a move that everyone recognized, including a duo of ninjas with the same hairstyle, the same suits, and the same bushy brows. "Wait. That's my move," Lee said as he saw Sasuke use the same kick that he had used on him before during that test fight. He couldn't believe that Sasuke was using that move as well. "What the?" I thought, as Sasuke leaped after Yoroi. As soon as they were in midair and Sasuke was behind Yoroi, he confessed something to the hidden sound spy. Alright, I'll admit I borrowed this move, but from this point on, the rest is my own creation. But that, Yoroi only commented the first part of the move as Sasuke began to take his shot at taking out Yoroi, but before he could accomplish it, the cursed seal once more activated and he was bathed in pain as the flame patterns once more began to spread all over his body as he now felt its presence begin to fill his body and mind. Damn it all, not now. Sasuke-kun. Crap. Sasuke, you had better not lose here and now of all things. You said you and I will be fighting soon when the preliminaries are over. Don't you dare go back on your word to me now. Sasuke looked at Sakura with her eyes in tears and her face in worry and fear, while Naruto was seriously tense and not wanting him to just give up and lose now. He was not going to be beaten here, he had much to live up to, and his two goals in life would be even further out of his reach if he lost here and now. Damn. I won't lose, I will win and I will do it on my own power. But that, he focused his will and strength of mind into it and managed to beat back the seal and force it to subside much to the shock of the people who knew about it, namely Kakashi, Anko, Sarutobi and naturally Orochimaru himself, as Sasuke used several attacks to take Yoroi out of the match and finished the attack with a powerful heel kick known as the Lion's Barrage. The two ninja were out of it, but Sasuke was able to get off his back and was sitting down with exhaustion, and Heiei declared Sasuke the winner, and that was Kakashi's cue to make his move after trading some words with Guy, as Yoroi was taken away by the medics for treatment, and one of the medics tried to approach Sasuke, but Kakashi interceded. The Jonin told Sasuke that the cursed seal had to be contained, and now was as good a time as any for it to be done. Sasuke naturally was not happy with the fact that he was going to be missing out on the rest of the competition, but Kakashi was not backing down, and Sasuke had no choice as he was followed by Kakashi. Orochimaru smiled and was excited at what he had seen, while Anko and the others who were aware of the effects of the cursed seal were impressed that Sasuke was able to resist the call of the cursed seal to use its power. Orochimaru, however, decided to leave the scene and see just what Kakashi was having in mind. However, Dosu did not like this, he had a feeling that there was to what was going on and he wondered what was going to happen next. However, he decided to see just what would be the outcome of the other matches, he had nothing left to take care of at the moment and attacking Orochimaru was suicidal to say the least. Back in the ring, Naruto sighed and got ready to the soon-to-come fight that he is going to be handed to by the council and as a way to test his Kekai Genkai. He was looking forward to this fight and hoped that what Fenric said to him would work out. It was then that Jeku spoke. Due to the large number of genin teams, a genin team must be removed as per request by the council. The next fight will place the genin team from the village of Hidden Rain against. The people watched as the electronic board moved through the names and to the shock of everyone, except Naruto and Fenric's Naruto's name came up. The other genin were surprised as one genin taking on a three-man team was unheard of anywhere, and even more so that it was Naruto who was going to be the one lone genin who was going to be fighting against them. The rookie 9 knew that Naruto's new power might work, but how ill he beat at least 3 targets. The Rain genin had the thought that they were going to win easily, and their leader spoke to prove their thoughts. I don't know why a punk like you gets to fight all 3 of us, but we are going to make sure we are not going to be eliminated by you if you could eliminate us by your lonesome kid. Naruto, however, was not the least bit intimidated as he replied with a confident smirk. Why don't you stop talking and start fighting? The Rain genin got real angry at that, and their leader Oboro cast the Kage Bushin jutsu that they favored, and when they had surrounded Naruto, they unleashed another surprise. Take this, brat. The Rain genin unleashed a massive number of shuriken and kunai at Naruto to finish him off. Naruto, however, merely relaxed and closed his eyes, much to the shock of everyone in the area, while Kin, Dosu, and Zaku looked on. Kin looked at Naruto and spoke. Is that guy trying to commit suicide? Who the hell cares, he's nothing but trash. Dosu, however, was not so sure about that. After what he had seen the boy turn into before when Kin and Zaku were out cold, he, leader of the Sound genin team, knew that there was a lot more that what was going on before him. And his thoughts were proven true as the kunai and shuriken hit Naruto without ill effect, the weapons merely hit him on the skin and bounced off without a single drop of blood on his body. What the hell? Naruto grinned and now it was time to pay these guys back for that attack. He focused his thoughts on his blood and then felt a rush hit his body and now he felt himself being energized and the others watched as Naruto once more was releasing the same gold and silver mist and he spoke to the Rain genin team. Now that you've had your fun, it's my turn. Naruto tensed up and shouted. Dragon King blood release. Wind. Elsewhere, I must have been out of my mind to have said that, Kakashi said to himself as he calmed himself a bit and looked over at Sasuke, who was currently resting after the binding seal ritual that he had undergone. He was acting this way since he had been faced by Orochimaru, who was shed his disguise and revealed himself still in his Sound Jonin outfit, and the two traded words, while Kakashi defended Sasuke with his use of his Rikiri. During this time, Orochimaru revealed that he had known about the Wave Country mission, but only because he wanted to keep track of his prize Sasuke. He also revealed that he was the head and leader of the Sound Village and that sooner or later Sasuke will be his and then nothing would stop him. However, he was interested with Naruto now either as a test subject or as a target to be eliminated and to have that sword either corrupted or destroyed. Orochimaru left afterwards and Kakashi was able to get some help from a small band of Anbu that he sent to escort and protect Sasuke in the hospital where he was to rest and recover until his body got used to the binding seal. Before Sasuke fell unconscious, he had told him that the binding seal needed his will to keep the cursed seal from spreading. In the ring, the Rain Genin couldn't help but feel themselves come close to crapping in their suits as they witnessed something that no one had ever expected. They had expected a 3-on-1 fight to be easy for them, while everyone else were shocked with the situation as Naruto faced a senior Genin team all on his own. However, it seemed that there was no need to worry. Sarutobi couldn't help but smile a bit and he looked at Fenrix who smiled at him as the two of them looked on. The Hokage turned to see the shocked expression of the other members of the Konoha Council. It had shocked them to see that Fenrix was not kidding about Naruto's newly awakened bloodline being powerful, despite it being still in the infancy stage. Naruto looked at his arms and saw the tattoos that took the color of pure silver, and the tattoos were also different in form and pattern. There were waves and lines, as well as cloud-like symbols and whirling spirals, and even though he knew that this was just a basic power at the moment, he was amazed by the power that was flowing out of his body at the moment. All he said was the release command, and then the element wind, and then the tattoos appeared and transformed, even though he still felt a rush of pain at first, but that was now nothing more than a simple prick, than a blinding flash of power. And here he was now surrounded by a column of pure wind that was moving about him at his very command. There were 2 visible vortexes of air on his hands, while a glowing aura of air surrounded the area near his feet, showing swirling light and air around him like a tornado, and his eyes were glowing slightly as his tattoos were glowing, and he could feel the power of his bloodline flowing through his veins, and he felt a desire to unleash his powers at the full. All over the area and the building were strong winds as the air came alive and moved all over the place, and the wind was flowing in and moving all over Naruto in that moment. Naruto then decided to bring it on as he moved and leaped over the heads of the Rain Genin, and as soon as he landed, he spun himself and moved his arms towards his chest in the same way, and created a massive sphere of pure high concentrated air around him. He then pushed his arms outward at the sides, and the air concentrated there in the sphere that covered him, suddenly exploded with amazing force outward. The 3-man team of Rain Genin were sent flying outward, and so were their Bushin, and those were reduced to splatter as the power of the wind-based attack and the Rain Genin were knocked out in merely 3 seconds, a new record in the whole history of the Chunin exams. Just about every ninja within the whole room was stunned at the sight before them all. Naruto, with just one move, had defeated 3 Genin in one simple but powerful move and in merely the time frame of 3 seconds. Holy, what was that? Kiba was shocked out of his hood as he saw that all the Rain Genin were knocked out by one move. If he thought that the sight of Naruto not even taking a single scratch from the kunai and shuriken that were thrown at him was shocking, this one just beat them all. Akamaru was also confused and barking. But that was amazing, Naruto-kun. Hinata was blushing bright red at how much Naruto had not just grown physically, but in power as well. That was amazing, as well as the sight of Naruto being unharmed by the kunai and shuriken that were thrown at him earlier. She had thought he was going to be badly injured, but the shuriken and kunai didn't even hurt him. Is that the power of Naruto's Kekai Genkai? If that is, it is amazing. Rock Lee was impressed and proved it as he shouted. That was great, Naruto-san. I was also impressed at the sight. He was not familiar with a move that Naruto had used and wondered if Kakashi had been teaching him some new technique. However, the rival of Kakashi had his doubts. That move was certainly something that Kakashi might learn during his years as an Anbu. But as a Taijutsu master of Konoha, he saw that the technique required no hand seals at all. He knew that there was no way a jutsu like that would be done without hand seals, so it must be something. For now, since Kakashi had left with Sasuke to do something, he would have to keep this secret for the time being and figure out what was going on. Ino was surprised at the whole scene. Is that really Naruto, the same Naruto who used to be the dead last among us? This is troublesome. If he can fight like that at the moment, there's no way I can beat him if I have to fight him, Shikamaru said as he looked on. Taoji was silent as he munched on, but even he was impressed by what he had seen. Their Jonin sensei were also surprised by the sight. Asuma was stunned to silence as he nearly dropped his currently lit cigarette to the ground at the sight before him. As soon as he was able to get his mouth to work at the moment, he decided to speak. That was unexpected. That was no normal wind release technique. Kurenai was also impressed by the sight. Amazing to think he could manipulate wind to that degree and not use hand seals doing it. Could this really be the same Naruto who was the undeniable class clown that failed several times in the academy graduation exam? Gaara was very impressed at the sight and trembled as he looked at the raw power Naruto had just displayed before them. He is strong, very strong. I want to kill him. Temari was also surprised. Impossible, that guy did all that. Wow. Hankuru was surprised at the sight. Aki was likewise impressed as he had never seen that before. There were a large number of wind users back in Suna, Tamari being one of them, but there was no one who could manipulate that much wind with only their hands and body. This one deserved to be watched. The Sand Jonin decided to do some investigating. Even though he had faith in the plan, this Naruto Uzumaki might prove to be a problem. Aki however had no idea how much Naruto would be a problem, as the blonde genin and now clan head moved triumphantly back to the upper floor to see the next fight. To be continued. Quality is good, and so is quantity, but what happens when you combine both? The village of Konoha. Naruto walked back to his home as he was accompanied by Fenrix. The day had been very long and hard at the moment, as he had witnessed a good numbers of battles. He had been tasked to face Kiba and Akamaru, but the fight did not last long as Kiba, who was not happy with fighting him at his new state, and both he and Akamaru did their best, but he had easily defeated them, but naturally he didn't harm Kiba too much. His bracers limited his full power, even his strength, though his strength was greater than it was before when he was not able to awaken his powers, and this allowed him to defeat Kiba well enough despite Akamaru's help. He had to admit that Kiba gave as good as he got, but with his dragon skin. No amount of attacks Kiba and Akamaru threw at him could easily harm him, though it still stung a bit as his scales, according to Fenrix, were still developing and needed more time to fully adapt to his body. The other fights were pretty interesting as he looked on. The fight between Zaku and Shino was interesting enough, and Fenrix looked at the battle with a critical eye and knew that the destruction bugs were the key to Shino's victory, as this allowed him a unique combat advantage over the other foes he would be facing at the moment. Another fight was naturally the one between Kin and Shikamaru, where his former classmate was proving to be very good in his own right, as well as any other ninja, despite his apparent laziness through the use of his shadow manipulation Kekai Genkai. The end of the fight was somewhat amusing to Fenrix, who had admitted he had seen such a move before, but said that the ones used by the Nara clan were not as powerful as the much older form. Nevertheless, he congratulated it and considered the Nara clan to be very good in their use of the old Ascendant bloodline that their clan had in them. The fight between Ino and Sakura was rather interesting as the two fought it out with whatever skills and abilities they had. Ino was the stronger of the two, but Sakura was just as determined, and he was surprised with the use of Bushin that was similar to his own, and while the fight had ended in a double knockout, and that meant that Sakura was no longer able to compete in the semi-finals. He was happy that Sakura finally showed that she had what it took to be a Kunoichi, and he noted the fact that despite their fighting, the friendship that was between the two was still there. Fenrix noted that as well and respected that and said that while this was a simple battle by most if not all standard, it was a good fight. It was also when Kakashi arrived on the scene to see how things were doing. There were two fights however that got his attention completely, and the same could be said for Fenrix. The first battle was the battle between Hinata and Neji. From the very second the battle started, he was getting enraged by the way Neji was belittling Hinata, and the sight of the girl he once thought to be shy, dark and weird was somehow enraging him. To hear her try to defend herself and the way she looked made Naruto even more angry at Neji's actions. He shouted to Neji to shut up, and he then told Hinata to stand up for herself and prove to Neji that she could change no matter what and beat the snot out of him. Hinata did her very best, but was beaten. However, he saw that she had done her best, and she was alright as Kakashi, Guy, and Kurenai stopped Neji from landing a fatal blow. Flashback, HMPH. Typical of the main family getting all the treatment. Neji however was unable to finish his words when a shout came right at him. Shut up. Neji barely had enough time to move out of the way as Naruto came right at him with a fist surrounded by a vortex of wind, and the fist ripped through the floor like it was nothing more than kindling, surprising everyone, including Kakashi. Naruto moved away from the clouds, covered in the same tornado aura, and his eyes were glowing a bit and his teeth were bare. He lifted his fist and spoke to Neji as the winds whirled about him. I am going to rip that damn tongue out of your mouth with my bare hands. Fenrix however stepped in, and so did Kakashi, despite the fact the Jonin had no idea what was going on at the moment. Naruto, that is enough. Kakashi held one side of Naruto's shoulder, while Fenrix held Naruto's coiled fist, and the senior Dragon Ascendant watched as the bracers quickly reacted and Naruto's powers began to subside, and the tornado stopped, and the tattoos faded from Naruto's body, and the blonde genin turned to see to Hinata. She tried to say something to him, but she fell unconscious. Naruto looked at the blood there from Hinata and touched it, and then turned to Neji and snorted and spoke to Neji. If you and I ever fight, mark my words, you are going to apologize for what you have said, because I will beat the crap out of you like you've never felt before. End of flashback. The next fight was the one between Gaara and Lee. He had thought Lee was fast, but when it seemed that Lee's Taijutsu couldn't match Gaara's sand, Lee was told by Guy to remove his weights, and then things took a very interesting turn as the weights fell off. The very second the weights hit the floor and actually shook the building, he was able to see the genin go full throttle, and he knew just about everyone who saw this, with the exception of Neji and Guy, were surprised at how fast Lee was moving and hitting. Even Fenrix was impressed somewhat. The battle went to Gaara's corner, and Lee unleashed his special skill and unlocked his chakra gates, and to the shock of him and everyone about, he tore the battleground like Swiss cheese in a grinder, but even that was not enough to keep Lee's foe down for the count. Gaara recovered and was more than ready to fight and was able to cripple Lee. The sight of Lee's body still standing before Gaara and Guy despite the fact his left arm and leg were broken was amazing. The guy was fighting in pure instinct and body memory, and Guy was very sad for this, and even Kakashi had to apologize to Guy for not showing Lee more credit as he was very powerful to reach the 5 gates. All in all, after the matches, he was told that he and the others would have a month to get ready for the soon-to-come semi-final matches, and it was going to be something that he was looking forward to. He was eager to start his training so he won't be left behind. He hoped that Kakashi would be able to teach him, but Kakashi was on a special meeting with the Hokage and just about every other Jonin, Chunin, and even the clan heads. Despite the fact that he was not very interested in politics, he couldn't help but wonder what that meeting was all about. As he arrived, he was surprised to see a number of Anbu at his apartment, and there was none other than the Hokage himself who seemed to be overseeing some sort of moving program. Naruto wanted to know what was going on and why were Anbu and the Hokage at his house of all things. "Hey old man, what's going on here?" The Hokage turned and replied. "We need to have the apartment refurbished and rebuilt in order to make extra room for several other dignitaries, so this place is being rebuilt at this moment by several workers and it has to be cleaned and cleared out. Your furniture and other amenities are going to be stored in the Hokage Tower until then." Naruto couldn't help but feel a bit shocked at the news. "But where the heck am I going to live this time? I don't have enough money to buy a brand new home, old man." The Hokage however gave a sly smile and replied to Naruto's question. "Balin had made special plans, remember? He had a home built for you in secret and it is now yours. Fenrix I believe knows more about it than I do, so it would be best that your guardian explain it to you." "Balin made me a home? Where is it?" Fenrix grinned. He had secretly visited the home that his master had prepared for Naruto nearly years before. Normally houses took weeks or months to make, but with a Dragon King, those houses would be done in mere days, but it was also very secret as no one in Konoha had any idea of its location or what was hidden deep beneath it. It was not a house in the standards of most humans, but something else entirely. As the two left, Sarutobi looked on and sighed as he looked back at the ninja, who were busy packing up Naruto's supplies and gear for him to pick up later. He then thought back on how the discussion with the Jonin and Chunin went when he told them of the latest developments. Flashback: as soon as all the Jonin and Chunin were in the meeting hall and also the head of the clans in Konoha, as well as members of the council, he began the special meeting, not just concerning Orochimaru, but also the discovery and awakening of Naruto's Kekkei Genkai and naturally his moving out of his old home apartment and into his new clan house. Naturally a lot of the Jonin, Chunin and clan heads were quite surprised by the news that was given to them at the moment and they were still debating what to do with this kind of information. The same was true for Kakashi as he was still trying to get used to the idea that his genin team not only had one Kekkei Genkai user, namely Sasuke, but another who could manipulate wind in a way that even Asuma could not. Asuma was one of the few wind users in Konoha and thus was more knowledgeable of the use wind chakra. The clan heads were also interested and were eager to see this Kekkei Genkai of Naruto in action, though many of them were not all that convinced of its powers. As the meeting was adjourned, he told Kakashi to stay and turned as there was yet another guest who had remained in the shadow, and Kakashi knew already who it was. "It's good to see you again, Jiraiya-sama." "It's good to see you too, Kakashi. You've matured a lot since I last saw you, so, how's it dealing with Naruto?" "He's a handful, that much I can be certain." "You know already that he is a clan head." "Sarutobi-sensei told me. You realize that as soon as the news comes out, things for Naruto are going to get very interesting." "I know, but what brings you back here, Jiraiya-sensei?" "I came here for mere research, but also to give my report. I know Orochimaru is here, and the target is Sasuke, no surprise there. That Kekkei Genkai will seriously interest him with the ability to see and copy jutsus." "So what sort of abilities does Naruto's Kekkei Genkai have?" Sarutobi filled the two of them in, and Jiraiya was grinning. "I can't wait to see this in action." End of flashback. As he walked back to his home, the Hokage couldn't help but wonder just how Naruto would react to the sight of his new home. In another part of Konoha, the two Dragon Ascendants arrived in a massive valley a fair distance from Konoha, and as soon as they got there, Naruto was not able to see any buildings, and he looked at Fenrix, who just smiled. "So where is this new home of mine, Fenrix-sensei? Allow me to show you." Fenrix made some gestures and to Naruto's eyes, he saw a shimmering of light, and then out of nowhere was a massive hill made of pure stone that had several unique patterns of rock and metal about it, and he could have sworn the patterns had a soft but very powerful glow at the moment, and there was something about this place that tugged at his senses. He watched as Fenrix touched a wall and the wall seemed to shimmer and there was a long tunnel there. As they walked through the tunnel, they went deeper into the earth, and finally they arrived at another door, and as soon as Fenrix touched the door and pointed for Naruto to do the same, the doors parted, and in that moment, they were in the main hall. Naruto looked at the main hall of his new home and was impressed to the point his eyes became saucers, and his jaw dropped. He thought living underground meant that he was living in some sort of dank, smelly, dirty cave, not this. The main hall looked like a mansion. In the middle was a beautiful foundation with cool clear water and statues made of pure marble that resembled dragons. There were benches made of solid marble as well which were covered in soft leather. Light was coming through several large openings and was distributed all over the halls by both water and apparently light-emitting crystals shaped like trees that glowed softly, giving the place a very soft but strong amount of light. There were underground streams that were moving through and were cool to the touch and to Naruto's amazement were drinkable. The walls were smooth and covered in small gems and inlaid with copper mirrors which appeared to be well polished, as well as silver and gold designs that made the place even more grandiose than before, and in the areas were healthy trees and bushes, giving out a sweet scent to the cave. The floors were made from tiles that combined marble, jade, and smooth limestone, and were very strong. All in all, the main hall was impressive. Fenrix couldn't help but chuckle at the look of awe in his student's face as he gazed at the main hall of his brand new home. It was befitting someone who earned the favor of a dragon king as well as the new head of a clan in his mind. And it seemed the same for Naruto as he moved about and explored his new home's main hall. "Naruto, we have yet to see the rest of your home, come on." Naruto nodded and the two of them approached two massive stone doors which had intricate designs, and Naruto pressed his hand on the doors as he found himself marveling at it. He was then surprised to see the intricate designs glow pale blue, and then the doors seemed to move and slide into the walls, and Fenrix spoke to his charge. "The doors are at least 2 feet thick of specially enchanted limestone that are held in place by pure magic and are only designed to open for the owner of this house, namely you. This applies to all the doors as well in this home of yours. Now let us take a good look at your home." The hallways were also lined with soft glowing crystals, and the gentle sounds of water flowing on small canals on the sides of the walls were rather soothing to the ears. On the sides were bowls that had pools of water in them, and when he tried some the water was cool, enriching and fresh. In Naruto's mind, it was amazing. They arrived and opened another set of doors. In before Naruto was yet another hall, a lot larger than the main hall, but in it were beautiful statues made of jade and marble, as well as metal. There were stone tables in a semicircle there in the middle, as well as smaller tables in the sides, and benches of stone which had soft leather there as well. There were 4 large crystal formations that were giving light into the main hall through filtering openings above the walls were also smooth and supported by pillars of stone and metal, which were also smooth and cool to the touch, and there were some trees and bushes which were very healthy and gave a soothing refreshing smell like a fresh forest into the hall. There were chairs there on each table with one being a little larger than the others as well. And there was a large open floor there as well. There was a massive staircase at the back with several stone doors there as well. On the right were also 2 sets of doors, and there was also another set of doors on the left. Naruto could only say a single word. Amazing. Yes it is, this is the main dining and entertainment hall. This is where you can have your food and where to feed and entertain your guests as well. The first set of doors to the right lead to the food storage chamber where the food and drink are preserved for your use. The second set of doors lead to main kitchen where your food is prepared. Would you like to take a look at them? Oh yeah. I want to see the kitchens. Good, I figured you would like that. Come on. The kitchens were larger than his old apartment and like the halls, they were very good, clean, well maintained, well lit, and they were kilns, roasting pits, piles of wood, coal, fuel and more. The kitchens also had all the things needed to staff a kitchen such as condiments, dishes, utensils, cooking tools and more. Naruto was impressed greatly at the sight of the kitchen as it made his older kitchen look so small. The blonde genin looked the place over and he could see that there were some strange symbols on the place and he touched them and the place came alive and it was when Fenrix explained to Naruto how the kitchen worked. This place is run by natural energy drawn from the very heart of this world and so it can take care of itself. The symbols you touched will activate this place. All you have to do is to make the dish and when everything is in place it in the appropriate cooking device and then place your hand on the symbols and then use the power of your mind to project the dish and how it is made and the cooking device will do the rest. This will also function like any moral kitchen if you want and will for others who come here. Cool, isn't it? The storage place is similar to the shape of this kitchen, but as its name states, it stores food and ingredients and stores them in special containers that only stores massive quantities, but can also retain the freshness of all food and drink items that are stored in them, so you can have enough food and drink to feed a large number of people here in great safety. This entire place is protected by the very energy of the world, and thus only one who wields the same kind of power can even break through the outer walls. The two left the kitchen and they went to the other side of the dining hall and entered one of the other doors, and they found themselves in a large room, and there were blowers, a massive fire pit, piles of wood and coal, bars of metal were there, as well as prongs, large hammers, and a set of anvils. On the other side where there was no danger of fire were books and scrolls in well-made shelves of stone and metal. There was even a table that had mortar and pestle, along with vials, powder bags and more. The place was also lit by crystals and had several open vents and a massive chimney on the area above the fire pit. Naruto then noted several molding stones in the area as well as working benches, and he couldn't help but wonder just what this place was at the moment, and Fenrix was the one who told him. This is your special creation hall. This place is part armory, part forge, part alchemist lab, and part library, so you don't need to have too many places to go to. Here you can learn many things on whatever subject interests you, and where you can create weapons, armor and more if it helps, as well as potions and herbal mixtures. Why do I need armor? That is entirely your decision, Naruto, but keep in mind that you are still very much a hatchling when it comes to your ascendant heritage, so any form of protection will certainly be worth the time to learn, so do not think that you do not need some extra edges in combat, should the need come to that. The books and scrolls also have information of the making of potions that can be highly effective for you and others, along with salves, oils, kits, and more using the native ingredients and secretly hidden ones that only those who are taught by dragons can find. Balin had been in your world long enough to know how to find the places that time and humanity had either forgotten or chose to forget, and he stored them here in this place. A dragon king's wisdom is worth 100 years worth of human knowledge, so do not take these books and scrolls lightly. Naruto nodded as he began to grasp the implications of what Fenrix was saying. They then left the creation hall and then entered a massive hall that was bare of all the other things he had seen in the other halls. There were only glowing crystals, vents, and several pools of cool spring water in the hall. The floor didn't have elegant tiles, but soft flat earth, and the walls lacked the designs and more compared to the halls Naruto had seen. This place was very sparse and Spartan-like in design and form, but he could sense great amounts of power in the place. What is this place? This is the training hall. This is obviously where you can train using your powers and abilities, and as such, this hall is specially filled with hidden wards and symbols that reinforce it. And considering the fact that you will learn to use a variety of powers that will rely on your ascendant Kekkei Genkai, this place is going to be seeing a great deal of hard use soon enough. That is the reason why this place is specially reinforced to make sure it does not collapse, so don't let the Spartan appearance fool you. We can come back here for your training later, as we still need to see the rest of your home, so let's move on for now. The two left the training hall, and then they made their way to the staircase located in the back of the dining hall, and they were in a massive hallway that branched off to the sides, and they went to one of the hallways and found themselves before a smaller door, and when Naruto opened it, he found a well-furbished room with a soft bed with a framework made of stone and the mattress being very soft and comfortable, as well as the pillows and the lush covering. There was a well-polished silver mirror that reflected Naruto's face and form like glass. There was also a large drawer there made from wood, and there was another door that led to a room that had a pool of water that had a pair of gems on it. One was red and the other was deep blue, and there seemed to be something of a sprinkler on the wall that was overhead near it as well. What is this place? This is a simple guest room. The gems on this pool will allow the user to condition the water to be either hot or cold and adapting to human needs, and the sprinkler acts as a shower of sorts. This place has at least 60 of these rooms in this area, simple and functional, but comfortable. How does air get in here? The air is regulated by both the plants that are sustained here and drawn in by mystical means, so this entire compound is routinely supplied with air, so there is no danger of anyone suffering asphyxiation. The same goes for these rooms, and the air is able to be regulated to be comfortably cool or warm, depending on the desires of the person residing in the room. Let's move on to your room. I think you might find that place a lot more to your interest. Naruto and Fenrix moved to the hallway, and they headed for the large double doors, and when those parted, Naruto looked at his own room in wonder, as this room was something else entirely. It was spacious and the bed was large, not large in the sense that it was taking up the whole room, but it was a lot larger than his old bed. The place was well furbished, as there were closets made from well-carved and conditioned wood. There were also chairs there and a trio of silver mirrors, and when he saw his personal bathroom, it was very well made, a large pool there for him to swim in, and the water was clean and clear, and there were two gems there, one red and the other deep blue. There was also a small pool there, and both were fed by a spring of water that was still flowing. There were glowing crystals there as well. So how do you find your new home, Naruto? It's amazing to think that this is now my own home, and Valen made it for me. It's just amazing. This entire compound is the result of Master Valen's preparations for you to awaken to your powers. The reason your powers really took so long to awaken was due to your demon resident. Really? The Kyuubi did something to block my ascendant blood. That is correct, it had somehow restrained your powers, but it was not going to have an easy time of it, and when that grass genin struck you, he had inadvertently broke the Kyuubi's hold on Valen's blood, and now you know the result. If he only knew that his plan to disable you has made you stronger, the look on his face would be priceless. Now come, we need to begin your training as soon as possible. In the training hall. Naruto was in the training hall, and as they spared with one another, Naruto learned that Fenrix was not kidding, that he was a lot better than him, as his movements were fluid, precise, and accurate, and his hits were certainly painful. And the blonde realized that if he had fought Fenrix as a normal person, he would have been asking for quite a beating indeed. They threw punches at one another and kicks as well, and Naruto did his best to hit his ascendant mentor, but Fenrix was no easy mark. Come on Naruto, move faster. I am moving normally here, use your speed and power at once. The training was very difficult, and despite his stamina and agility, Naruto was quick to run out of breath, and Fenrix knew it, but he pushed Naruto on, and it was there that Naruto got more serious and pushed himself further, showing his dedication and determination, much to Fenrix's approval of the situation. The more effort Naruto placed on his training, the better he would become, as well as developing the needed control to fully master his still growing powers. As the two continued to spar, Naruto finally felt his legs give way, but Fenrix caught him and spoke to his student. You did well, now let's get a drink. The senior Dragon Ascendant helped Naruto reach one of the pools, and when Naruto took a drink, the water tasted delicious and made him recover his strength, and with a nod from Fenrix, who then got the blonde genin and Dragon Ascendant to his feet, and he began to explain to him some things. Do you recall what you did during the preliminaries of the Chunin exams? Yes, what about that time? Well, if you are not familiar with the 5 elemental forms of chakra, I'll repeat for you. There are 5 elemental chakras in your world: fire element chakra, wind element chakra, water element chakra, earth element chakra, and lightning element chakra. Now each of them has a corresponding level of strength and weakness. Fire can beat wind, as wind is weaker than fire and only helps make fire stronger. Wind however beats lightning, while lightning defeats earth then defeats water, and water naturally defeats fire. Okay, but why are you telling me this? The reason is that this is for the use of ninjutsu, but as an ascendant, you have a tie to the natural world which has not been seen here for millennia, and as far as I know, most ninja have 1 or 2 elemental affinities. In the case of what I have seen on Kakashi, he has the lightning element, and for Sasuke, he command fire, which is obvious as the Uchiha clan are known for fire techniques. And while you have your own elemental affinity to discover, your ascendant powers are able to draw energy from the very fabric of the elements and the earth itself. As such, you have a gift that many ninja will not easily see. Let me show you just what I mean by that statement. Fenrix focused his powers slightly, and his tattoos came to life, and to Naruto's amazement, his tattoos resembled waves of flame or fire-like patterns, and were colored fiery gold and red, and then Fenrix moved his fist to create a large aura of flame that covered his hands. So fire is your element? No, you are about to see what I mean. Naruto was stunned as Fenrix merely calmed himself, and his tattoos changed form into resembling lightning bolts and spheres that emitted lightning and color, and he began to manipulate the arcs of pure lightning before him in his hands, as his tattoos were glowing gold at the moment, and the senior Dragon Ascendant then moved the lighting to attack one of the nearby targets, reducing the tall pillar of wood into nothing but charred pieces, and Fenrix smiled at Naruto. Now you try it, summon your powers and say the word lightning. Naruto calmed himself and focused his powers and spoke. Dragon King blood. Release. Lightning. As soon as Naruto said that, his tattoos activated and the tattoos took the symbols of lightning bolts and spheres and were glowing golden at the moment, and as soon as the transformation was complete, he saw arcs of lightning moving on his hands and he felt no pain as the lightning moved about on his arms and body. Wow. Fenrix nodded and explained patiently to Naruto just what was going on. As you can see, the technique you are using at the moment is what is called elemental manipulation. This is what a Dragon Ascendant is capable of with initial training, and he or she can use the technique to unleash torrents of fire at their foes, create earth shields for defense, unleash boulders at larger targets, fire currents of pure lightning through the ground and in the air, fire waves of water at their foes, unleash funnels of wind to send their opponents flying, and more. Cool. You're going to teach me all that. When do we start? Not so fast, hatchling. First there are some basic rules you need to both know and follow before you try this exercise. What are those? First, these abilities require that you practice how to shift elements when in a combat situation. Using the right element in the right moment can be critical. In simple terms, using the right weapon for the right battle. The second is that you need to develop control. At the moment you still need to say the words in order to effect the shift. A fully trained ascendant can shift the elements merely by thinking about the shift and what element they wish to use when the battlefield changes. Allow me to show you what I mean exactly by that. Fenrix then began to show Naruto just what he meant, as the tattoos merely shifted into a new style of appearance and color, and he was now manipulation a column of earth that rose from the ground in the training hall, much to the awe of the blonde ninja and Dragon Ascendant. And then he raised 2 more pillars, and then he shifted the tattoos once more, and he then unleashed a massive number of fireballs from his hands that blew the first pillar into chunks, and then the other one was hit by a massive wave of water. Fenrix then leaped into the air as his tattoos changed to match Naruto's tattoos in the fight with a range genin, and he delivered a powerful diving kick to the pillar he was standing on earlier with the wind on his feet, allowing him to slice through the pillar and land before Naruto, who was utterly impressed with what he had seen at this moment in time. Wow. That was awesome. Fenrix nodded and then replied. True, but this is using each element separately. When fully trained and mastering each element without relying on words, then a fully trained and mature Dragon Ascendant can control all 5 elements at once and use them for both attack and defense. You're kidding. Fenrix smiled back, and then he focused his tattoos, and then they took the color of the 5 different elements, and in a moment, Naruto was surprised to see a ring of fire moving around Fenrix, which was joined by arcs of lightning, a sphere of air surrounded by floating chunks of earth, and a ring of pure water, all 5 elements at once. Fenrix then revealed the power of the technique as he unleashed a combined stream of wind and fire at the very same time and destroyed a nearby pillar of earth in a heartbeat. He then unleashed water and lighting in a combined strike, with water going first, hitting the other targets with the power of its tsunami, and then the lighting took its turn and was amplified in power by water. Massive pillars of lightning were seen by Naruto hitting the other targets, and they were obliterated instantly. Fenrix then unleashed a massive wave of stone to bombard the other target, and then combined earth and wind to convert the earth into sand that was blinding, replicating the very way Gaara fought as well, much to Naruto's amazement. Naruto was awed, and when Fenrix finished using the transformation and the 5 elemental combination, Naruto was eager to learn. Can you teach me that? Please. Fenrix couldn't help but laugh a bit at the expression on Naruto's face, and he knew that while he couldn't teach Naruto that style of combat just yet, as that style of elemental manipulation require years of training, if not decades or centuries. Not until you master the basics of all 5 elements, as you need to do that before you can be able to use the 5 elements together in unison. What I showed you is but a demonstration, and therefore this style of combat is a lot more powerful than even you can imagine at the moment. Now that you have an idea of the kind of training that you are about to undergo, you need to get ready as best you can. You have at least a month to prepare. Naruto, however, was not deterred and replied. I'll master as best I can, don't you worry about that. Fenrix grinned and decided that for the time being he would tell him about being the head of his own clan. He was familiar with the needs of starting a clan and what were the rules and more. He also had to explain some important things about Naruto's ascendant heritage that was very important and was for his ears alone at the moment. It would soon be revealed to the rest of the Konoha Council, though the Dragon Ascendant knew for a fact that the very second they heard about this, Naruto was going to be for a lot more than he could possibly handle. But then again, his student was not the kind to be bothered by odds all that much, and that was fine by him. Before we get down to training, I suggest we take the time to talk about your new role as head of your own clan. There are some important considerations that you must know, so you are better prepared for it. The last thing you need is to be caught doing something indecent which will not only embarrass you, but also put your clan in a very bad light. Alright then, tell me. First off is the matter of clan numbers. Since you are the very first of your clan, then you will need others to make up your clan. There are 2 ways this can be done. You can adopt others into your ranks, or you can have a wife and have children who will be recognized as clan members. A wife. I need to have a wife. Of course, Naruto, a clan can't survive without the head of the clan having heirs to it, you know. But due to the fact that your clan is relatively new to the scene, I believe an old rule is to be used in allowing your clan to grow, and that is polygamy, and before you ask, that word means that you can have more than one wife. Naruto's jaw dropped at that statement. Having one wife to him was surprising enough, but more than one wife? You can't be serious. I'm afraid so. There are instances of this happening as clans which are new have to have many blood-related members to ensure that the clan's Kekkei Genkai will remain with them, and also to ensure that if there are wars, there will be enough of them to fight and survive at the end of the war. This also ensures that the clan has heirs to take the place of their head leader, should anything happen to the leader. Having more than one wife can also help improve not just the already existing Kekkei Genkai, but introduce new abilities that could strengthen the clan. Take for example this situation. Suppose you have a child with one of your wives who has exceptional control over the element of water. The result is that any children born of that union would have a greater affinity for that type of element, thus improving the power of the clan. And considering the fact that your Kekkei Genkai is pure, it works both ways. The child will not only have your powers, but the traits of your wife will be enhanced by your own powers. You mean, if they have a Kekkei Genkai, then my ascendant blood can make it stronger? Yes, it might also unlock portions of the power that was once thought lost. Take for example, the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan. At the moment, the Byakugan is powerful, but in its pure and undegraded form, the range was much better and it would eliminate the little known blind spot that exists there, and it could go a step further by being able to see beyond the physical and see the spiritual and emotional. Now let's suppose that you have a wife from the Hyuga clan, who would naturally be Hinata Hyuga herself as she is the heiress to the clan. Naruto blushed bright red at the thought of Hinata being his wife, though why he had no idea at the moment, but despite his face resembling a tomato at the moment, he nodded to Fenrix to go on with his example. If she is your wife, then not only will she gain the title of it, but her Byakugan can actually improve a great deal and be much stronger due to your performance of your duties as her husband, but the child you both will have not just a much stronger Byakugan, but your basic ascendant powers and even the use of some higher aspects of your abilities. Are you getting me so far? Yeah, I am, but this is kind of sudden. I understand that. Another reason why you can have more than one wife is not just for the mentioned purposes, but it will also cement alliances with other families, as the children born from you and your wives from their families will be part of their own as well. This is where some delicacy is important, so try to be patient as some clans might become pushy, as your Kekai Genkai is quite powerful. There will be those who will try to do their best to have their daughters be married into your clan. Knowing how to handle these situations with tact and diplomacy will not be easy, but it can be done. Okay, but there is something that I can't help but think about. That being my age. I mean, I'm only 13 for crying out loud. I can't get married now. True, but just because you are married by law, it does not mean you have to procreate instantly with your wife or wives in this case. Get to know them more, learn from them, and be able to see them for who they are as people. That way you are actually building up a good relationship with the people who are going to be part of your clan. Okay, but I am still 13, how can I be sure that I can even have kids? You can, your body will hit a certain point in which it will have an accelerated growth spurt, so that means that while you are still 13, the growth spurt you will have soon will give you the body of an 18 or 19-year-old person, so you would be legally be able to have children, and your Dragon King blood has given you quite the advantage in terms of procreation than that of normal men. Huh? Have you taken sexual education classes in the academy? Not really, I was always doing pranks and getting reprimanded to learn anything solid. I just know that men and women can have kids. Never mind, we'll reserve that set of lessons on male and female intimacy for another time. Now as to what I said about you having an advantage over most men in the regards of procreation is in several ways. The first is that your sperm is capable of allowing women to be 100% capable of having children, meaning that even one drop is enough to guarantee that your wife or any of them your wives will have a child. No way. That is true, Naruto, I would not lie about that part. The second is that your wife's pregnancy cycle is a lot different than that of normal women. A human child is born as at least 9 months, but your child will be born in about half the time without any complications. So in simple terms, you can not only guarantee a full success rate when your wife or wives become pregnant, but your child can be born in the time frame of 4 months and 17.5 days. So in simple terms, your clan could produce quite the number of children in a short amount of time. The third is that since you have the stamina to last in a much longer time frame than most people, you can certainly give your wife or wives a night they will never forget. Naruto's nose bled out a fountain of blood at the news, while Fenrix was enjoying this at the moment. He couldn't blame Naruto for the reaction he had at the time, since such news was something one did not receive as everyday news. As soon as this news hit the streets of Konoha, he knew that things were going to get very hectic, and if it came out to the rest of the world at large, he knew that things were going to get very interesting. He then moved over to Naruto and nudged him with a smile on his face. Hey, you're not married yet, so you can worry about that later, come on, we've got training to do. Naruto recovered and was able to get his act together and return to training as they went through the prescribed exercises, and as time passed, Naruto was getting into the swing of things. Hours later, Naruto was once more tired and was eager to have some ramen, and they headed back up, and as they headed for Ichiraku ramen stand, Naruto was eager to finally put his training to the forefront of the month ahead. The next day, Naruto decided to visit the hospital to see how things were for Sasuke at the moment. It was then that he ran into Kakashi, who apparently had visited Sasuke before. The Jonin smiled at his student and spoke to him. Hey there Naruto, you've been busy. You bet, Kakashi-sensei, why are you here? I came here to check on Sasuke actually, he's still out of it, but the doctor said he's recovered well enough on his own at the moment. That sounds alright, say, can you teach me a new jutsu, please? Kakashi shook his head and replied. I don't think I can teach you at the moment. I know about your Kekai Genkai since the Hokage told me, so you need to train in that area first, and when you are ready, I can teach you a jutsu that you can use to your advantage. I might train Sasuke harder, but there are reasons for that, and you both have good potential. Oh alright, but promise me that you are going to teach me someday. Count on it. By the way, you want to pay a visit to Lee? I hear he's in one of the rooms. Naruto's face became sad at the thought of Rock Lee being the way he was at the moment and what Kakashi said about the dangers of Kenjutsu or forbidden jutsu. He hoped that the tough and strong genin would recover soon and continue to be a ninja. How is he? He'll live, but I don't know about his chances of being a ninja. Guy taught him well, there is no doubt in my mind about that, but for his chances, I just don't know. But can't the medic nin do something? Kakashi shook his head and replied. They're skilled, but nowhere near that skilled. The only medic nin I know who can do the surgery needed to heal Lee would have to be Tsunade. Tsunade? Who's that? One of the Sannin are the legendary 3 ninja sages. She was the finest medic nin in the village of Konoha and was the granddaughter of the Shodai Hokage, and she had superhuman strength. She was strong enough to collapse a wall with one hit. Wow, so where is she? She isn't here, and no Naruto, she's not a missing nin like Zabuza, her case is different. How different? I'm afraid I don't know all the details, the only one who would know would be her teammates. Naruto nodded and then bid farewell to Kakashi, and this allowed the Jonin to relax. Had he told Naruto the other reason for visiting Sasuke and training, he had no doubt the genin and new clan leader would have been royally angry. He had recently managed to stop Kabuto from killing Sasuke the Leaf Ninja, then revealed that he was a spy and a servant of Orochimaru as well, and was a highly skilled one to have killed all of the Anbu guards that Kakashi had requested to guard Sasuke. He noted that very well, and despite this, he did his best to convince Kabuto to leave. Kabuto was able to escape, using disguises and elaborate jutsus as well, fooling Kakashi with one of the dead Anbu used as a puppet with his clothes and face on, while he had taken the disguise of the same slain Anbu and escaped. Kakashi could tell that despite Kabuto's age and youth, he was not someone to underestimate, so he himself would have to shape up and be stronger than before, and if Orochimaru had such talent at his side, things were not going to be easy. He however had no doubt that the very second Orochimaru and Kabuto find out about Naruto's hidden powers and Kekkei Genkai, things for Naruto were going to get very interesting. For now however, he had work to do with Sasuke, as he, Jiraiya and the Hokage knew that they had to keep Sasuke's Sharingan from Orochimaru. As Naruto walked through the floors, he ran into none other than Shikamaru, who was carrying a fruit basket. Hey Shikamaru. Oh Naruto, what brings you out here? I was planning to visit Sasuke to see how the guy was doing and also to see Lee. What are you doing here? Sending this fruit to Chaoji. He had one streak rib too many, if you catch my drift. It got so bad the nurse forbade him to eat anything solid for the next few days. And you know how Chaoji will react to that. Yeah, that is bad news to Chaoji. Anyway, it'll be a drag to be carrying this all day. Here, grab a bite. Naruto took an apple and quickly munched it as the two of them began to make their way to Lee's room after getting some directions. However, it was then that both ninja felt something bad in the air. Shikamaru and Naruto looked at one another and quickly moved to see what was going on, and as soon as they reached Lee's room, they saw just what was going on, as well as who was in the room with the still sleeping genin. Gaara, who was about to kill Lee with the desert coffin. Shikamaru moved quickly and bound the sand genin with his shadow manipulation Kekkei Genkai, and Naruto moved and quickly hit Gaara right on the face. Ow. Hey Naruto. Don't hit him while I got him bound with my shadow, you just hit me. Sorry about that. Man, Naruto's got a hell of a right hook. If he had not pulled back, he would have broken not just this Gaara guy's jaw, but mine too. The sand genin got up and looked at the two and focused on them as they saw that the genin was wearing his sand armor, but it was badly damaged at the moment. What the heck are you doing here in Lee's room, Gaara? Well met again Naruto Uzumaki. I didn't expect you here. I am a bit disappointed I don't get to fight you in the finals. Now isn't the time for that, and you know it. Why are you here? Hi there Chaoji, how are you doing? Ino asked as Chaoji smiled and saw both her and the fruit basket she had for him in her hands. Wow, a pretty girl with food. What a lucky break. Back in Lee's room, what are you doing here, Gaara? I won't ask again. Naruto wanted answers and wanted them now. He knew that he couldn't attack Gaara with any of his abilities due to the fact he'd injure Shikamaru as well, along with harming Lee, but he couldn't help but ask just what the heck was Gaara doing here in this room of all things. I was going to kill him. That naturally didn't set well with the two Konoha genin who glared at Gaara. That is, Naruto glared while Shikamaru kept his cool, but even so, he was not liking the situation for the moment. What? The simple and calm look of Gaara, which was mixed with a bloodthirstiness, was making Shikamaru nervous as he shook his head. This guy is one cold customer, he's not showing any reaction. Even if I have him tied down by my shadow jutsu, I have no doubt if he tries to attack us, I can't stop him too well. The only chance to defuse this is to bluff him, but why the hell would he want to kill Lee? You already beat him once in the preliminaries, heck you practically broke his leg and arm and he can't fight anymore, let alone defend himself, yet you want to kill him. Isn't what you did to him back there enough for you? Is this some personal grudge you have on Lee? I have nothing personal against him, there's no ulterior motive or complicated planning involved with me being here, I just want to kill him, nothing more. Naruto didn't like that in the least. You're insane Gaara, I don't know why the heck you're like this, but right now I don't care, you really lost it. Yeah, Naruto's right, you honestly think we'll stand by and let you murder one of our fellow genin in his sleep and unable to fight back? You're one sick, selfish and twisted psychotic Gaara of the sand. If you both don't stay out of my way then I'll kill the both of you as well. Naruto however glared and his tattoos began to show themselves and traces of chakra began to seep out and he replied. I'd like to see you try it, Gaara. Whoa Naruto. Don't blow a gasket here. Look, we know you are tough and we were there when you crippled Lee with your sand, but we haven't unleashed our full abilities just yet, so we have the advantage. Really now? Yeah, what you've seen of my family's ability with shadows manipulation is just the icing on the cake. Besides, there's two of us here, so take my advice and leave here peacefully. Gaara however was not intimidated as he spoke back to Shikamaru. I'll say it again loud and clear, if you two get in my way I'll kill you both right here, and now I don't need to wait until the tournament to kill you both. Damn, he's like ice, this is not going well. I'd like to see you try, Gaara. Damn it Naruto. Keep that temper and ice for a single minute. This guy fights like a demon for Kami's sake. Naruto glared and replied. He can act and fight like a demon all he wants, but I happen to have the real deal right inside of me. I happen to have a demon in me as well, a real one, pure power as well, and you do not want to wake it up. What the hell are you yapping about now? Let me try to defuse this mess. What the whole point of getting him mad on us anyway? Gaara looked on as Naruto glared back and he merely closed his eyes and spoke. A demon inside you, huh? Then my demon is as real as your own is. What the heck? My birth and my upbringing back in my village of sand was not something one would call either happy or normal. To make sure I would be born as the ultimate sand shinobi to ever be born from the land of wind, my father, the fourth Kazekage, used his ninjutsu on me, infusing my still unborn form with the power of a sand demon spirit. In doing so a life was lost with my birth, my mother's life. I was literally born as a monster in human form. Naruto looked on with shock at that as he realized that there was something in Gaara's tone that told him that this was the truth and it resonated with him because it was the same as his own life. Shikamaru was also shocked and Gaara carried on. The name of that demon that melded with me was Shukaku, the living reincarnation of a former sand priest who died and became evil and was sealed in an old tea kettle. Shikamaru recovered and spoke. A demon-based jutsu but to use it on a baby before it was ever born? That is one creepy thought. Your father must love you well enough to give you that power. Can it be true? Can he really have a demon inside him like I do? Gaara never showed emotion, but Naruto could tell that there was one emotion in Gaara: hatred. Love? You speak of love. Don't think I can be measured in your standards. It's not love I feel for my family, neither is it respect or any of those feelings you people have. The only emotional ties I have for them is hate. I hate my family. I hate them all to my very core. The only thing I ever wanted was to wrap either my hands or the sand in my gourd around their necks and kill them slowly. Given life by the death of my mother, I was nurtured to be the salvation of the sand village. My father taught me all the secrets of the ninja at a young age, and I was treated well enough, pampered and protected and left to my own devices, and for a time I thought it was love, but that was only the beginning of everything. What the heck are you talking about? What kind of trick are trying to pull this time, Gaara? When the 6 years passed, when I was 6 years old, my father tried to have me destroyed far more than I care to remember. The way Gaara smiled and looked quite insane made Shikamaru and Naruto look in shock, both however were not backing away. You just said your father pampered and protected you. Was that some sort of lie? It was no lie. Those who get to be strong get to be feared, and I was feared by everyone in the village. The same jutsu that was used to infuse Shukaku in me had imbalanced my mind in some way. Even the most foolish of my village realized that I was emotionally unstable. My father, the Kazekage, created me as his ultimate weapon in battle, but even he saw that I was too dangerous, and I became a threat to the very village I was meant to protect and save from disarray. When I was 6, I became a figure of terror to everyone, and in their eyes, I was nothing more than a relic of the past they wanted gone. I was a living monument to their sins that they wanted destroyed. And that meant I had failed the purpose for which I was given life utterly. So I asked myself what was left for me to exist in this wretched world. What was the point of living now? For living and having no goal is the same as being a dead corpse. But then I realized that everything has a purpose and a goal to stay alive in this world. What is this lunatic freak talking about? Naruto remained silent and thought to himself. I know what he means, I know what he feels because I was like him too. Him and I are no different from one another. We are both demon containers. Then I found the answer. My reason to stay alive was in the killing of all those who are my targets. Since it was my mother's death that gave me life, then it is in the death of ours that gave me purpose. I lived in fear of those sent to kill me, but now I do not fear death, and I have killed many would-be assassins sent by my father in the years. I learned that I truly lived when I fought and lived only for myself, and I loved myself. I have no need for others, and also long as there are those alive for me to kill, then I will find some peace and happiness in this overcrowded, wide and wretched world. I will live here for all eternity. This guy has lost his mind. He's not human at all but a freakish monster. I was alone like him. I had no idea why I was alive until Iruka-sensei came and then saw me for me, not for the Kyuubi. He gave me a reason for living. Then I met the old man, Kakashi-sensei, Sakura-chan and even Sasuke, but Gaara he had no one, and those who could have helped him turned on him. He had to find his reason to stay living on his own, but he came up with this to kill in order to live. Could I have become like him? If it hadn't been for Iruka-sensei being there, could I have been like Gaara too? We're so different, but we're close to being the same. We're literally brothers in a sense. Naruto. Damn it all, not now. This is a drag. The reason for that was the sand suddenly came to life, and despite Gaara being pinned down by Shikamaru's jutsu, the sand came right at them as Naruto was frozen stiff by what he heard and how much the same he and Gaara were. Gaara was about to attack, but it was then that Guy arrived on the scene, and so did Fenrix, and Fenrix had a blade of pure fire aimed at Gaara's throat, and with one pull, the Dragon Ascendan could have easily sliced Gaara's head off. I suggest you lay off with your antics, Gaara of the Sand. Harm anyone here, including my charge, I will slice your head clean off. Gaara looked at Fenrix, but even though he was emotionless, he mentally took a step back as he saw the dragon-like eyes that stared back at him. Gaara left as pain hit him as Guy told them to wait for the finals, and he turned to speak to them. All the same, I am going to kill you, I will kill you all. As Naruto left with Fenrix and headed back to the fortress home of his, the senior Dragon Ascendant spoke to his student. I heard everything, but before you get any ideas, I think that you already have people who care for you. Sakura, Iruka, and Kakashi, Master Valen, the Hokage, and maybe even Sasuke. They are the people who gave you the chance to walk away from your personal hell. Gaara didn't have that, and look at him, those people are important to you, Naruto, am I right? Yes, they are. So you must fight for them, for their sake, not for yourself. Remember the things you've learned, and remember what Haku said to you. Naruto remembered quickly what Haku said about how people gain true strength by fighting for others, and that steeled him to train even harder. If ever he would face Gaara, he would not hesitate to fight him with all he got at this moment in time. Elsewhere, where have you been, Gaara? We've been looking for you. Hankuru asked his youngest brother when he showed up, just as they were getting a very bad feeling about what was going to happen if he was out of sight, but he was back and seemed to be no worse for wear. None of your business. Hankuru sighed and kept his cool, knowing that no matter how angry he would get, he was no match for Gaara. Tamari sighed as she looked at both her brothers and wondered how it had come to this. They were here not to truly win the Chunin exams, but to help the Sound defeat and crush Konoha, the village that they were allied with, and so many died for this peace. The situation was so wrong to her, but there was reasons as well. The feudal lord of Wind Country ordered military cutbacks, forcing her village to downsize their forces and lose a lot of missions that could truly help them in many ways, and matters that should be in the hands of her village were handed to the people in Konoha, and that made them weaker in power and influence. That was the reason why Gaara was born as well. They had to go for quality shinobi instead of quantity. But now they were going back into war under the order of her father, and the outcome. Tamari sighed as she looked out the window. Things were going to be very bad news now. Days later, the village of Konoha was currently getting ready for the coming second half of the Chunin exams. And it seemed that things were well on their way to getting very loud and entertaining at the moment. However, there were some new things that were being discussed in hushed tones by the villagers, namely concerning a certain blonde genin who had just discovered his own Kekai Genkai. Many of the villagers were making rude comments and saying that stuff was just garbage, and there was no way a guy like Naruto would have a Kekai Genkai. The villagers, however, were getting rather curious on how the soon-to-come matches would turn out. Many talked about the coming match between Sasuke Uchiha and Gaara of the Sand. To them, that was the kind of fight they were looking forward to, not the fight of the blonde genin, and many of those who were against Naruto thought that he would be beaten down. They had no idea how wrong they were. Naruto was busy training long and hard deep within his underground fortress-like residence, as he was being taught by not just Fenrix, but by Jiraiya as well. The meeting between the Sannin and the blonde ninja did not go well at first, but they were getting along well enough as Jiraiya and Fenrix had a respect for one another, and much to Naruto's shock and surprise, his mentor Fenrix, like Kakashi, was fan of the Icha novels. All throughout his training, he was unaware that while his blood had finally adapted to the powers, his body had not. Fenrix knew this and trained Naruto hard, as he knew that Naruto's growth spurt was already taking effect as he was growing taller and stronger than before, as his body was being magically adjusted to suit his powers. The changes included a loss of all baby fat and replaced with lean but rock-hard muscle, increase in height, and also his face began to change into that of a more mature and handsome person. Jiraiya noted that, and Naruto could have sworn that the pervy sage said something that sounded like he was going to be as handsome as his old man. He, however, was so focused on his training that he did not notice, and he was enjoying the training as he slowly but surely began to adapt to using not just wind, but fire, water, lightning, and earth. He knew that he was to give his all at the moment, and he couldn't wait to see what other lessons Jiraiya might give him. The pervy sage tested Naruto's use of the Kage Bushin and also his Genjutsu, Ninjutsu, and Taijutsu skills, and despite his thoughts on the Sannin being a perverted old man, he was happy with the training. Jiraiya himself was interested in giving Naruto the contract of frog summoning, but waited for a better time to train him, as his new Kekai Genkai had to develop first. At the end of the month, he would teach Naruto just how to summon toads, and he was looking forward to the results of this meeting between Gamabunta and Naruto. It was during his training that Naruto wished he could use the ultimate move of elemental manipulation. However, during an exercise with his Kage Bushin, the blonde had an idea on a new jutsu that he could incorporate into battle. The day of the semi-finals of the Chunin exams. As the crowds gathered and were now filling the area where the coming Chunin exams were going to start, Naruto left the compound of his home and was wearing a cloak with his new clan symbol, the 5 elements in dragon form surrounding the symbol of Konoha. He decided to pay a visit to the old training ground, ignoring some of the comments heading at his direction, namely sent by young women. As he arrived there, he was surprised to see none other than Hinata herself. He was not expecting her here, but he decided to call her attention. Hinata turned and she blushed bright red as she found herself looking at a very handsome young man with deep blue eyes and deep blonde hair that resembled the color of gold, weed in the sun itself. She felt her heart race and wondered just who was before her. Who are you? How do you know my name? It's me, Naruto. Naruto? Is that you? Yep. BB, but it can't be, I mean. Why? Do I look ugly or something? No. But you look so handsome, I thought you. Hinata blushed to the point that her face was bright red as she realized just what she had just said, but she could not help herself as Naruto looked so handsome that she felt like he was a god in human form at this moment in time. Hey, thanks, I don't look at a mirror all that much, but if you say so, then it's true. So, how are you feeling? Hinata managed to look at Naruto and replied. I am feeling a lot better and Naruto-kun, the doctor said I should be careful, but it'll be fine, I hope to see you in action soon. Count on it, I am going to make Niji regret ever making all those remarks towards you. Thank you, I want to say, thank you. For what, Hinata? For what you said before in the tower, I knew I would not be able to beat Niji-san. I was always shy and meek, I never had confidence before, even if I trained hard, I was always afraid of losing, of giving my all, but when I looked at you and heard what you said to me to stand up for myself, I felt so alive and so strong, to know that you were right beside me. Hinata. I felt like I could fight to the limit and I was worth something. I might have lost, but I felt that I have changed for the better, thanks to you. So I have no doubt you can win, Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled and spoke to Hinata. Thanks, you know something, Hinata, I have to tell you what I think of you. Hinata gasped as she felt her body tense up and her heart beat even faster at the moment as she waited in anticipation. What is it, Naruto-kun? What is it you want to say? Do you like me, please, I have to know. You know, back then I always thought of you as what, please tell me what you thought of me, Naruto-kun, I must not faint. I have to know. Hinata felt her heart race at the expectation of what she had long waited for Naruto to say to her. She wanted to know that you were a weird, timid and odd girl. Hinata felt downcast and wondered if her shyness had finally caught up with her, and she wondered if this was what Naruto truly thought of her, and she felt even sadder. However, her thoughts of sadness disappeared as Naruto spoke. But now I see you as a kind, strong-hearted, brave, and talented person, and I happen to like that a lot. I like people who are like that, and seeing you fight was impressive. No matter what anyone says, you will grow up to be a great ninja someday, don't lose faith and keep it up, Hinata. Hinata blushed bright red at the praise, and her sadness vanished as she could see that Naruto meant every word to her. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled. No problem, see you at the finals, Hinata. As Naruto left, Hinata was still blushing as she twiddled her fingers and felt her heart race and her feelings swelled. He said it. Naruto-kun likes me. As he made his way to the building, he was able to enter despite some problems at the entrance due to the Chunin there who guarded the doors. As soon as he proved that he was Naruto, he made his way in and was greeted by FanFiction and Jiraiya, who were eager to see this fight and show his newly created special ability. As soon as he entered the ring, he removed his cloak and was dressed in black pants with orange stripes and wore a simple black and orange striped shirt and vest with the same clan symbol at the back. He ignored the stares, including the one from Temari, and focused on the soon-to-come fight. In the ring, as the two faced once another, Naruto was more than eager for the soon-to-come fight. He was going to make sure that by the end of this round, he was going to beat the holy hell out of Niji and give him the beating he deserves for looking down on people's dreams and aspirations to be better and stronger, as well as proving to others that they were going to able to make themselves into stronger and better people. The crowds were expecting this fight to be easy for Niji, and then they could actually see Gaara and Sasuke face off once Naruto was defeated. Some admired the fact that he got this far, but they felt that he was going to be easily defeated by Niji. While many of the women were surprised at how handsome Naruto was at the moment, even Sakura and Ino were impressed. Naruto was focused in the battle and was now ready to give Neji the sound beating he deserved for his words, but for the moment, he wanted to see just what Neji was capable of unleashing with the Byakugan and the gentle fist at the moment, so for now, he was going to let the people think that this fight was going to be simple. He however was not going to let Neji think he was going to have this fight in the bag just yet. Neji however was not that confident, despite his calm stance at the moment, he was cautious in attacking Naruto directly, as Naruto's abilities were making him a deadly foe at the moment. Begin. The moment the Jonin Proctor Genma said that, Naruto quickly attacked with several kunai, one Neji caught and used that to block the incoming attacks, but Naruto was quick to attack and unleashed several fast punches, and while Neji evaded them and used his Byakugan to attack Naruto. However Naruto was quick on the uptake and quickly moved out of the way and launched a powerful spinning kick at the side, and Neji managed to block the attack, but Naruto was not going to let him get away so easily just yet, as he quickly recovered and leaped over Neji, and as he landed he turned and launched out a swipe kick that Neji leaped over. Naruto however followed up with a reverse spinning back kick that hit Neji in the stomach, making the Hyuga clan member realize that while Naruto was not using his full power, even so he was not someone he could afford to take lightly. The two engaged in several hand-to-hand combat attacks, and while Neji tried to use his gentle fist, Naruto was not going to make it the least bit easy for Neji to score a direct hit at the moment. The fight proved to be a winning one, and the crowds watched as Neji and Naruto were fighting their best in the moment before them. For every kick Naruto unleashed as well as every punch, Neji was able to counter, but even then, the speed and power of Naruto's attacks were very good, as Neji had to strain his Byakugan to the limits to even things up at the moment. His attacks were getting better, but Naruto countered with quick and effective movements, using his hands and arms to block Neji's attack, and also his legs to block and effect Neji's kicks. Naruto unleashed several kunai and shuriken that Neji easily evaded, and the two attacked once more, and Neji threw several kicks at Naruto, but Naruto leaped away and did a spinning backhand upside down that Neji managed to block, and he attacked with a back kick that Naruto blocked in retaliation, and when he landed, the blonde genin launched a powerful series of kicks at Neji who blocked as best he could. Not bad even when not using his powers, he is more than capable of fighting. This fight is going to be a lot longer than I thought, but since he is not using that power, I can beat him with those jutsu. You might have trained long and hard Naruto, and I respect that, but fate cannot be changed. I will win this fight because destiny is on my side. As the two separated, Neji attacked with his gentle fist and managed to hit Naruto, but Naruto countered the attack by moving backward and grabbing Neji's hand and pulling backward and landing a powerful elbow into Neji's body, which Neji blocked with his other hand. Naruto countered with a powerful rising knee attack which hit Neji in the stomach. Neji however countered with several palm strikes that forced Naruto back, and this was when he made his move. The Kesho Katen. Neji rotated his body and unleashed a powerful sphere that knocked Naruto back, and as soon as Naruto recovered, Neji was not going to finish as he attacked with yet another Hyuga clan special attack. Hiashi was impressed and saw how Neji was able to use such techniques that were never taught to him due to being a branch family member. His daughter Hanabi thought the very same thing as well as her cousin, was proving to be a lot better than she thought, but she too was impressed by Naruto's moves, but the second move seemed to guarantee Neji's victory. Haki Rakujian Sho. Naruto got hit so many times that it seemed that he was going to be knocked out, and Naruto moved down to his knees, and Neji couldn't help but be impressed at how Naruto fought. He had managed to pull out several hits and the two Hyuga clan moves, and now it seemed that he would win in the end. You fought well Naruto-san, but you have lost. What makes you so sure? Accept it, I don't know why you didn't use that ability you showed before in the preliminaries, but now without your chakra, you can't use it at all. Fate is unchanging and losers cannot be able to change, that is the will of fate. Screw that fate and destiny crap. What makes you think that is all true anyway? You really want to know? Very well, take me for example. What are you talking about this time? Neji then removes the Konoha forehead protector, and there on his forehead was a seal in the shape of an X. Naruto looked at it as Neji spoke. I had this disgusting mark on me when I was merely 4 years old, and so did my father Hisashi since his own birth. My father was born after Hinata's own father Hiashi, and his clan laws dictated he was relegated to be a member of the branch family. The Hyuga clan are of two parts, and the branch family's fate and destiny are to be the ones who would protect the main branch. I was unaware of it at first until I saw how they treated my father and me, how we were always relegated to other tasks despite our own talents. This cursed seal was always used for those of the branch family, who were always destined to be nothing more than shields for the main family. This seal was given to me by them on the day when Konoha and the Country of Lightning signed a valuable peace treaty. After a war between them and an alliance, a celebration was held that day. The head ninja of the hidden village of the cloud was Lightning Country's representative. The Hyuga were the only clan not present, since it was Hinata's 3rd birthday, and the same day I was branded with this seal. Both my father and Hiashi were twins, and my father hated the main family and never respected them. On the day my uncle was training Hinata, and he was able to best her, my father prepared to fight with Hinata to see how much she had grown, but Hiashi activated the seal on my father, and my father suffered from it. The seal prevent members of the branch family from attacking the main by limiting their Byakugan and injuring their minds and bodies. Hiashi then told him to never defy his fate as a branch family member. That seal protected the Byakugan bloodline through death, for the seal only disappeared in death. One night Hinata was kidnapped and Hiashi was able to save her and kill the man responsible, and that man was the head ninja of Hidden Cloud, the Lightning Country, then stated that Konoha violated the treaty, and they demanded the lead of the Hyuga clan in exchange for the death of their head ninja. In time the relationship broke down, and Konoha gave in to the demand of Lighting, but they didn't give the Ashi they gave my father his Ashi, instead they gave them my father because he was the second born and was fated to die in Hiashi's place. Niji then placed back on the forehead protector and then glared at Naruto, who glared right back at him. The day my father died was the day I learned the truth of life, Naruto, and I know it to be true. The only truth is there are those few who are predetermined to be great. I know your dreams of being Hokage, but you are not going to make it. Only those who are predestined can be Hokage. There's only true fate that binds all of us, and that's death. No one can escape that, and all because my father died as a member of the branch family of the Hyuga for the sake of the head family, as it was his destiny and fate as a branch family member. And now your fate has been decided since you became my foe in this match. The Ashi heard everything, and he knew just what it was that Niji spoke of in his heart. Niji still cursed and hated the main family, and he knew why Niji hated them after all. They did agree to having his Ashi killed in his place, but there was far more to that than even Niji realized. He wanted to tell him the truth, but he doubted Niji would ever listen to him. He had every reason to not listen after all. Naruto, however, was not convinced and replied, "You can tell me that, but nothing will change the fact that I will not lose to you, and there is no such thing as a fate you cannot escape. At least I have the courage to fight and defy fate. What about you, Niji? Still too much a coward to face fate." At least Hinata and Lee had the courage to face and fight for what they dream for, unlike you who hides behind this crappy thought of fate being inescapable. Niji was getting very angry and made that very well known. You know nothing. No matter how hard you train and no matter how hard you dream for it, you can never gain it, because all people are born with an inescapable fate and destiny. Only those chosen by fate and destiny can ever be Hokage. And you know nothing about how it feels to carry a mark like this one on me for the rest of your life. I am cursed for all eternity and nothing can change that. Naruto, however, got up and to Niji's shock summoned his chakra once more. "Spare me your idle prattle and garbage, Niji. Now that we're done playing around, we can get serious." "How? You think I let you get those hits for the fun of it, Niji? I just wanted to see just what you were capable of doing with both the Byakugan and the Gentle Fist for real, and not that I know just what you are able to do. Now is the right time to get serious." Naruto got into a combat stance and then unleashed his special ability. Dragon King Blood. Release. Wind. Niji watched it. The tattoos were finally showing themselves, and the sight of Naruto being surrounded by wind made him move back, and this got the crowd right by their pants. They had thought that Naruto was done for despite the amazing fight and spirit he displayed before, but now it seemed that the blonde ninja was about to show what he was about to do. And Naruto did not disappoint as he attacked with several powerful tunnels of wind and sent those slamming hard into Niji's defense and sent the boy away. Naruto did the same, and Niji evaded the attack and charged at Naruto, intent on finishing the fight quickly, but if he thought he would be able to attack Naruto up close and attack with the Haki Rakugan show once more, he was wrong as Naruto beat him to the second. Naruto attacked at the same time but with an even greater speed, using the wind to propel him even faster to close in to attack Niji, and he struck with a simple kick. Niji blocked but paid dearly for it as the wind appeared on Naruto's leg and sent him back with several tears on the clothes and some cuts on his skin, not enough to draw blood, but to hurt well enough. Naruto was far from done as he attacked with several blasts of wind and then moved in and launched a punch, and as Niji evaded and prepared to strike, Naruto quickly flipped over Niji and landed his own palm strikes into Niji's back and sent him to the ground. Niji turned and coughed a bit as he felt pain on his body at the moment and spoke to Naruto. "You were baiting me the whole time." Naruto nodded and then spoke with confidence. "Oh yes, I don't have to attack at long range all the time, as you have found out, my abilities also work well in close combat. Besides, Niji, what makes you think wind is the only element I can throw at you?" "What? Lightning?" Niji could only watch as the tattoos on Naruto's body transformed and resembled spheres of lighting and lightning bolts, and Naruto's body was suddenly releasing lightning bolts all over himself. Naruto then raised his arm, and then to the shock of the people above, black lightning clouds appeared in the sky, and then a massive current of pure raw elemental lightning in lightning bolt form lanced down with a massive boom and landed on Naruto, without even harming him, and then with a pointing of two fingers, Naruto unleashed the bolt of lightning right at Niji. Niji managed to roll away, and he couldn't help but feel his nerves tingle and his skin seemed to be alive, as even though he had evaded the strike, the very air was filled with lightning, even as the clouds above vanished as quickly as they came. Naruto decided to taunt Niji the same way he taunted Hinata to give him a taste of his own medicine. You want to try the gentle fist of yours on me again, Niji? Let me show you just how bad an idea that is. Naruto did so, or he was covered in an aura of pure lightning like a suit of elemental armor, and he spoke once more. If even one finger of yours touches me, I can hit you with enough lightning to either stun you or cook you alive. How do you plan on beating me? How can you do that? This is my Kekai Genkai Niji. I can manipulate all 5 elements with equal skill, and apart from increased physical abilities, I have the ability to be nearly impossible to harm with blades, as you already know, but to drive this home, I am also given a higher resilience to injury and to paralysis and even illusion techniques. It means I am immune to Genjutsu, and even to a degree. Your vaunted gentle fist, and you know why, despite how effective it is, you're going to need greater physical strength to use it on me, and you don't have it. And that makes your chosen fighting style useless on me. But mine is more than a match for yours. Niji was stunned, and so was everyone else in the ring. Naruto, however, was not going to give up yet, as he attacked and dropped his lightning aura and attacked with his taijutsu and revealed another frightening aspect of his powers to Niji as his punch landed on Niji, as Niji was still unable to fight back. He screamed in shock as he was hit by bolts of lightning that quickly stunned him, and he was able to move back. This is not good. He's able to stun me with just a single punch and I can't attack him. I have to do something fast. Niji took out a kunai to give him some defense, but Naruto was quick to disable that idea as he focused his lightning into his right hand, and to Niji's surprise and that of everyone else, the lightning solidified into a sort of pure lightning, and with one strike, Naruto cut the kunai quite easily. However, the technique seemed to be imperfect as the lightning quickly dispersed as Naruto landed on the ground from his leap. The Hyuga member managed to keep his distance, but was treated to yet another surprise, as Naruto merely shouted another command. Water. The tattoos on Naruto's body shifted once more at the command and resembled streams, rivers, and waves of blue color, and Naruto was now using water as spheres of liquid were there on his hands, and he then unleashed from the air itself a massive wave of pure water that slammed hard into Niji, drenching him and sending him flying. Niji barely got to his feet as Naruto attacked, and while Niji tried to use a sweep kick to knock Naruto down, the blonde ninja kicked upward, and Niji watched as a whip of pure hard water smacked him right in the face and sent him flying to the other side. He got up and looked to see Naruto smiling the whole time. Naruto was enjoying this fight greatly and planned to show off even more of his abilities in combat. He finally decided to unleash yet another element. Earth. Niji looked as Naruto's tattoos morphed once more to take the form of fissures, hills, mountains, and the brown-green color of earth, and then he moved away as Naruto unleashed several walls of pure earth from the ground with a mere gesture from his hands, and he sent the walls at Niji. Niji managed to evade the attacks, but he was not given a respite as Naruto attacked with and unleashed a powerful trio of waves made of earth to imbalance Niji, and he landed several kicks to Niji and knocked him back. Fire. Naruto's tattoos now resembled flame and was of a deeper red color, and he unleashed spinning whips of flame at Niji, and Niji got his leg burned a bit and he gritted at the pain and managed to roll away as Naruto unleashed several waves of fire by doing the same move as he had done with lightning and fired a trio of tongues of flame at Niji. Niji then realized that Naruto could only use one element at a time, and he calmed himself and tried to find a way to beat Naruto hard. But he was also cautious. He knew that he would have to find some way of hitting Naruto's body hard enough to use the signature Haki Rakugan show once more. In the crowd, damn. I hate to say it, but that was way cool. Kiba said and Akamaru barked in agreement, while Hinata was utterly impressed by how things were turning out. Naruto-kun, you are so amazing. That was, man, I never knew Naruto would get this good in a month. Sakura had to agree with Ino as the two looked on as Naruto was thrashing Niji around like a dog would maul a chew toy. Niji is getting really hurt, man, this Naruto is really pouring it on. Tenten hated to admit this, but it seemed that Niji had picked a foe that his Byakugan and Gentle Fist was useless against. Seeing Naruto manipulate wind got her worried at first, but she knew Niji's special move could counter that, but when Naruto unleashed his power over lightning and now water, her thoughts began to change. The Ashi could only look on in growing amazement as Naruto was busy pounding the very life out of Niji. Seeing Naruto stand up to the Hakesho Katen and the Haki Rakugan show without ill effect was surprising, but this was something else entirely. The Chunin were speaking rapidly to one another, and the Jonin were also talking with one another as they saw the power Naruto was displaying at the moment. The villagers were also chatting, but many were hooked at this fight at the moment. The masked Anbu couldn't help but look on at the sight before him. How the heck did he do that? Only the Nidaime was capable of using water jutsu without a water source. One of the Anbu said as he and his companions looked on. The captain, however, replied. That was no water jutsu, he is using water differently, he did not use any hand seals, and I think, no matter how crazy this sounds, he was able to pull water from the air itself. In the Hokage's viewing area, Sarutobi couldn't help but smile at the sight. Naruto had gone far, even though he had only a month's worth of training. Who is this young man? Sarutobi turned to the Kazukiage and replied. Naruto Uzumaki, who has an amazing Kekai Genkai and despite his tender age, is head of his own clan here in Konoha. You saw his new clan symbol of 5 dragons surrounding the Konoha symbol. He is relatively new in his powers, but he is growing. I have a feeling that he might even surpass all the noble families and their own Kekai Genkai. I see. Naruto-kun, where did you get this power? You did not have this when you were in the forest, and it is certainly not the Kyuubi's power. You are interesting. Naruto smiled as he finally revealed his special ace in the hole. He had been training in secret with this jutsu ever since he had discovered that the cage bushin he would normally make could also carry his powers, and that meant that they could use his ability to change the elements that they were able to wield. He had thought it over and wondered if it could work. He had presented the idea to Fenrix, and the senior Dragon Ascendant had to admit the move was very ingenious. And even the pervy sage Jiraiya was impressed by the move and said that what he had planned was taking the use of cage bushin to a whole new level. It had been a very hard run to master the style and how to properly use attacks that could work well. In conjunction with what he had in mind, it had taken him weeks to master some basic maneuvers. Here's my special trick and this is what I have been training in when I use my Kekai Genkai. I hope you're ready for this. Cage Bushin no Jutsu. Naruto created several clones, and there were now since there were 5 opponents before Neji in the ring, Neji wanted to know just what Naruto was up to at the moment and he decided to speak. Cage Bushin, despite that being a Jonin technique, that jutsu is no Kekai Genkai. Naruto was smirking however, he had been training with this for some time now, and now was the time for him to keep his promise. No, not on its own, but the Cage Bushin are my aids. I have yet to fully master the ability to manipulate the elements to the point I can use all 5 together, but with the Cage Bushin, I came up with the next best thing. Dragon King Blood. Release. Fire. One by one, each of the Cage Bushin spoke the same phrase, but instead of the same element that Naruto spoke, they spoke the other 4 elements. Dragon King Blood. Release. Wind. Dragon King Blood. Release. Earth. Dragon King Blood. Release. Water. Dragon King Blood. Release. Lighting. The 4 other Cage Bushin were quick to be covered with the tattoos, but the 4 were armed with different tattoos, and to the amazement of everyone in the ring, and in the Hokage box Naruto was now carrying a full burning flame in both hands and feet, while the other Cage Bushin were wielding either vortexes of wind, orbs of crackling lightning, flowing springs of water, and chunks of earth floating about. The gasps and comments on what they were seeing at the moment filled the whole ring as the people of Konoha, the dignitaries, ninjas, and the feudal lords. What they were seeing was utterly unheard of at the moment. Naruto and the other Cage Bushin grinned as they all looked at Neji who was looking the assembled force and he was stunned at that moment and the blonde genin replied with a very satisfied smile as he got into position. And the Cage Bushin did the same and as soon as the position was set, it resembled the elemental chakra table usually seen in the academy. Naruto who was currently using fire elemental manipulation was in the lead followed by the Cage Bushin using wind elemental manipulation, then by the Cage Bushin using lightning elemental manipulation, who was then followed by the Cage Bushin using earth elemental manipulation, and lastly by the Cage Bushin using water elemental manipulation. Like what you see, this is my personally created elemental Cage Bushin formation jutsu. This is my personal jutsu and only I can do it. I said I was going to beat you and now I intend to do just that. The 5 attacked Neji and Neji was quickly on the defensive and tried to fire a number of shuriken, but the Cage Bushin who controlled earth quickly raised his hands and out of nowhere came a massive wall of earth that blocked the shuriken and Neji looked up as the Cage Bushin using wind came from the wall of hardened earth and attacked him with a powerful pair of wind and spheres that forced him to move away, but Neji had no time to respond when the earth wall suddenly surged forward like water and the pillar slammed right into him. Aoug. Neji used his arms to block, but he was sent back as a flat pillar of earth slammed hard into him and forced him hack. Neji had no time to relax just yet as another Cage Bushin came right at him with a pair of shuriken and he was able to evade them, but before he could make an attack, this one revealed that it was the one who controlled water and he merely moved his hands and began unleashing whips of pure hard water and Neji tried to block, but the Cage Bushin was able to soften the water and it splashed into Neji. It was actually a trick and Neji got hit hard by the other water tendril, which was hard and hit like a whip and sent him reeling. He barely had enough time before Naruto, who still wielded fire, was joined by the Cage Bushin who was controlling wind, and the two then forced their hands forward and unleashed a combined blast of fire and wind, and Neji quickly realized that he was facing serious danger, as there was no way he could withstand a combined attack from both fire and wind, as the massive vortex of fire and wind hit the area before him. The Hyuga branch member barely had time to breath as he barely avoided a massive blast of pure lightning from his side as the lighting-wielding Kage Bushin unleashed powerful arcs of lighting from his arm at that moment. Even so, Neji did not get away scot-free. Before he could fully escape, the Kage Bushin leaped forward and in a spinning flip, brought down a spinning back heel kick that was covered in pure lighting, and Neji got hit hard on the side of his body and sent flying back. Neji gasped as he was covered in crippling lightning that stunned him considerably, but was not going to get a break as he was suddenly hit from the back and sent flying into the air as the Earth Kage Bushin fired a pillar of solid earth from below Neji and sent him flying upward, and then the Hyuga was unable to counter as Naruto came in with his fists and feet covered in flames and unleashed a powerful barrage of punches and kicks that hit Neji hard and following uppercut and sent the Hyuga flying once more. The water-wielding Kage Bushin came into play as he leaped upward and unleashed a massive wave of water that turned into a massive hand, which grabbed Neji and swung him around the ring, and then released him and sent Neji sliding on the earth, and when he stopped, he coughed out some blood, and he looked to see Naruto and all four of his element-wielding Kage Bushin moving in formation and he couldn't help but try to get to his feet. Naruto growled and spoke to Neji. "So? Had enough?" Neji was not going to give up as he got back to his feet. He was not going to give up at all at the moment. However, Naruto was not the kind to let things go easily, and he decided to take it up a notch, and he nodded to all his Kage Bushin, and then to Neji, and everyone else's surprise the earth-wielding Kage Bushin became fire, the fire-wielding Naruto now wielded water, the wind-wielding Kage Bushin became earth and the lighting-wielding Kage Bushin became wind. This effectively made Naruto and his Kage Bushin switch places, and since Neji could not tell which was the real Naruto, due to the Kage Bushin having the same chakra and making his ability to see even harder, where was the real Naruto at the moment? Naruto however was not giving up yet as he shouted another command. Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Yet another group of Kage Bushin came on the scene. This time there were 10 of them, and sure enough HT newly summoned Kage Bushin shouted the same Dragon King blood release command, and they were quickly covered by the tattoos and using different elements. Neji now found himself surrounded by a much larger number of Kage Bushin at the moment, and all of them were wielding a different element and were ready and eager for a fight. The Hyuga couldn't help but see himself surrounded by those Kage Bushin who were wielding fire, wind, water, earth and lightning. He didn't know what to do at this point in time, and before he could do anything, all of them charged at him, and he got ready to defend himself, but before he could do so 3 Kage Bushin wielding earth hit him with several earth-based attacks. The first included a flying wall of earth, the second several large chunks of earth powerful enough to crush bones and pulp flesh, and the other one was a number of earth tendrils. Neji managed to evade most of them, but his injuries made his reaction time even slower as he was hit by a part of the wall and sent rolling back as the 3 wind-wielding Kage Bushin attacked in tandem, and he was sent flying into the sky with a pillar of wind, and Neji was thrashed about left and right, and then 3 Kage Bushin wielding water moved upward, being able to fly with the use of water to propel them upwards, and then all 3 unleashed a powerful wall of water that slammed hard into Neji and sent him down to the ground. Neji tried to get up as he was soaked in water, and as he did so he looked up and got a full blow to the face with a lighting-covered uppercut and was only able to scream in pain as his body was stunned by the attack, and he saw 2 of the same lighting-wielding Kage Bushin making their move. One leaped over the shoulders of the one that gave him the uppercut and kicked him solidly in the chest and sent him flying back, and the third did the same and followed him in mid-flight and flipped in flight to deliver a powerful reverse heel kick covered in lightning that sent him crashing down to the ground once more. The crowd could only watch in shock, while the other jonin were very much surprised. Incredible to be able to use all 5 elements without hand seals, not mention being able to shrug off that many injuries and hit with even greater force, speed, stamina, and recovery. I guess my father was not kidding when he said that Naruto's Kekkei Genkai was unique. Asuma said as he took a fresh cigarette and looked at the sight of Neji being beaten so easily at the moment when the fight had started. It turned from a supposed one-sided battle into a powerful free-for-all fight that was impressive to the core as Naruto fought with a skill that was against the image of him being the class clown. As the fight grew more intense, it seemed that Neji had the chance when he used a special attack of the Hyuga main branch family, but Naruto not only survived it, but shrugged off the effects without any damage and then used his Kekkei Genkai, and this was the result. I agree, this is certainly not the Naruto many of us knew back in the day. Kurenai replied as she gazed at the situation before her. Hinata would no doubt have been impressed as well in her mind as she looked at Naruto, who was standing defiant, surrounded by his Kage Bushin, who wielded the elements easily and were more than capable in inflicting massive damage and attacks on Neji at the moment. She was impressed by the way Naruto had fought with Neji and wondered just what sort of training had he been undergoing for the past month to be at this level of ability. This was on Kekkei Genkai that in her mind was proving to give even the noble Hyuga clan's Kekkei Genkai a beating. The other Chunin and Jonin were also impressed at the rate this fight was turning out. Naruto was proving to be more than a match for Neji. If Neji attacked, he would be able to cut or hit Naruto hard enough due to the fact that Naruto's body is a lot harder than normal and was a lot stronger, and Naruto could use the elements as shields to protect himself in combat, further adding a high degree of ability for the blonde genin. His attacks were also deadly, as since his Kekai Genkai allowed him to control elements without hand seals and without harming him, this allowed him to use the elements to further increase his combat damage, and the results were obvious with some of Naruto's attacks on Neji, namely the ones where his arms and legs were covered in lightning, as attacks from that had a stunning effect on Neji's body, as the energy sent his nerves on haywire and even forced Neji to stop using the Byakugan. The Ashi himself was very much surprised by the results. Like all the clan heads, he had balked at the idea of Naruto being the head of his own clan, as such a thing has never happened before in so many years, and he too did not like Naruto all that much, as he too was familiar with Naruto's dark secret. The Ashi also knew of his daughter's long-time crush on Naruto for some time, as despite his attitude towards Hinata, he did keep tabs on her. When he found out that she was attracted to Naruto, he was displeased but made no move to stop it, hearing as Hinata would train her best to get not just his approval, but Naruto's own approval and recognition as well. Now that he saw Naruto's Kekai Genkai in action against Neji, he couldn't help but feel a bit threatened. This ability was totally unheard of. This Kekai Genkai descended from the blood, some mythical creature that supposedly visited their village and granted its power to Naruto and many of the clan heads and the ninja. Many of them thought of it as something that would be nothing more than a jutsu, but after all he had seen, this was different. Naruto wasted no time and quickly closed the distance, and so did all 14 of his Kage Bushin. Neji decided to take one last shot at defeating Naruto, but that was not going to work as all the Kage Bushin vanished instantly. What? Neji tried to react at that moment, but he was too late, as the real Naruto, who had secretly burrowed his way underground with the use of earth, making a 15th Kage Bushin to take his place, and had been able to evade the Byakugan, and as soon as he leaped out, he unleashed a powerful right hook that finally sent Neji flying, and then he flipped and attacked the reverse spinning heel kick that hit Neji right in the head, and that was enough to send Neji to the ground, hitting the ground with a bang as he coughed out blood. The real Naruto glared and was far from done as he lifted Neji by the neck and he began to choke the Hyuga clan member and glared at him and ready to fist. You tried to kill Hinata with one strike, I think I should give you same experience, to be fair, now die. Genma tried to move in, but seeing how Naruto had easily demolished Neji, he was more cautious. The Ashi looked on and felt worried as he was about to see Neji be killed. Neji couldn't help but feel that this was the end, but in truth, Naruto stopped his fist a mere inch from Neji's face and he pulled it back and spoke. Do you apologize? What? I said I was going to beat an apology out of you for those comments you aimed at Hinata and to those whose dreams you tried to talk down, and now that you can barely stand, I suggest you give me the apology I asked for. Come on Neji, it's not that hard, is it? Or are you too proud to say those words? Pride means nothing here, your life is my hands at this moment. How does it feel to know your life now hangs in the hand of one who used to be a failure? Naruto then released Neji and spoke to him as Neji to the ground. Do you know how many times I failed the graduation exams? Neji looked at Naruto, who glared back at him, and the blonde continued. I failed many times, and all because the one jutsu I couldn't master was the Bushin jutsu. Weird, isn't it? I am able to make as many Kage Bushin that I want, but I couldn't even make one Bushin back in the academy. Let me tell you something, Neji, you think I don't know what it means to carry a mark for the rest of your life? I do, I carry a burden that I have to live with for the rest of my days, but unlike you, I don't accept the fate handed down to me. Do you think you know the pain and grief of being cursed? You know nothing. You don't know what it feels like to know that every time you turn your back, people call you a monster, demon, idiot, and worse. You don't know how it feels to have them look at you as if they wished you were never even born. You have no idea how lonely, isolating, and depressing it feels to know that every day you have to go back home and be alone for the rest of your life. I had to live like that for 12 long years. You didn't have to, you're a Hyuga, one of the noble family, even if you are one of the branch family. Everyone only has to hear your name and they look at you with respect and admiration. You were born with that talent and ability. You didn't have to claw and fight your way out of the dirt, be where you are. You didn't have to try and fight to prove you are more than everyone thinks you to be. Not like me. Or Lee, or even Hinata, even if she is a Hyuga like you. The villagers were silent, even the ones would have spoken against Naruto were rendered dumb. They had thought this battle would have been simply a defeat for Naruto and would be quick, as they were eager to see Sasuke Uchiha in combat, but the titanic battle they had witnessed had changed their minds. They had thought that Naruto was going to be easily beaten by Neji, despite his supposed Kekai Genkai, which they laughed at and called it nothing but a weakness before the Byakugan of the Hyuga. But now they were taking their words back, because not only did Naruto withstand and survive, but outright demolished Neji, who was last year #1 genin. Before my Kekai Genkai awakened, I had few friends, and everyone treats me like dirt, like I am useless, like I am nothing but trash to be ignored. Not this time, I have made it here to this very ring, and now I have beaten you, the one who think fate cannot be changed. An old friend gave me a message, and it taught me an important lesson. Fate is something that we make for ourselves. As long as I have the will to fight, the courage to stand, and to prove that I can break free from my chains, then fate or destiny is something I forge for myself. So don't you dare preach all that crap about destiny being set to me or anyone else because it's nothing but garbage. If one like me can be able to defy fate and destiny, stand tall and shake the very foundations of heaven itself, then what about you? Niji was silent as he saw a bird fly freely into the sky, and he knew that he was defeated and spoke. I apologize. Good, now we're even. Genma could tell that Naruto was done and spoke to the crowd. The winner is Naruto Uzumaki. To be continued. What if Naruto has a Dragon Ascendan bloodline? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.